Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. The 9 reincarnations are unleashed, and the sickly villain Heroine arrives. Chapter 1. The young man was holding a heavy bag and was lying on the ground. In the dark and damp cell, a thin, white-haired young man was imprisoned. The young man lowered his head and closed his eyes. His face was bloodless. Due to being in the dark for a long time, his face was morbidly pale. At this moment, he was kneeling on the ground. His hands and feet were firmly trapped by chains, leaving purple blood marks, and his skin and flesh were rubbed so that the bones could be vaguely seen. The young man knelt on the ground motionless, his breath was weak, and he was almost on the verge of death. In front of him were countless delicacies and meals, all of which were covered with flies, and the pungent and corrosive smell filled the entire cell. It was obvious that someone came to deliver food to the young man every day, but the young man could only look at it but not eat it. In a trance, crisp footsteps sounded in the cell, and a tall woman slowly walked in and stopped in front of the young man a moment later. Hearing the familiar footsteps, the young man's tightly closed eyelids trembled slightly. The already dark and cold cell seemed to become even colder because of the woman's arrival. The woman had a stunning face, a fiery red long skirt, a slim waist, and smart legs. What was even more eye-catching was that the woman had a waterfall-like fiery red long hair draped over her shoulders, showing a kind of enchanting beauty. The woman also held a bowl of meaty food in her hand. Her face was as cold as frost, and there was a cold murderous intent in her eyes. She looked at the young man kneeling in front of her with a sense of joy. "Shen Shucho, do you regret it? As long as you say you regret it, I will let you eat and then send you to freedom." Qin Hongyi's tone was cold and pleading. To her disappointment, the young man in front of her still looked the same and did not reply. Shen Shuchu's appearance instantly made Qin Hongyi's cold face become angry, and the temperature in the cell suddenly became as cold as the cold spring of the 9 netherworld. For more than a month, she had imprisoned Shen Shucho in this cell carefully built for him. Every day, Qin Hongyi would inject heart-eating insects into his body to torture him. In addition, she tried all kinds of torture on Shen Shucho, and deliberately put food in front of him so that he could only smell it but not eat it. Every time after torturing Shen Shucho, Qin Hongyi would inject true energy into his body to prevent him from dying. Every time Qin Hongyi looked at this person who had loved her so much, taught her to read and be a person, and treated her as a treasure in the palm of her hand. Hidden under the gentle surface is fake. Every time Qin Hongyi tortures, she feels happy but also has a little bit of heartache. Qin Hongyi stretched out a hand and pinched Shen Shuchu's chin tightly to lift him up to look at her, but he still closed his eyes. "The once famous swordsman, have you ever thought that there would be such a day? When you killed my family of 30 people, did you ever think that it would become like this? Shen Shucho, I want you to tell me that you regret it. As long as you say it, I will not torture you anymore." Qin Hongyi's tone trembled slightly. She just wanted to hear him say that he regretted it. 50 years ago, her family of 30 died in front of Shen Shucho in front of her. At that time, she was only 6 years old and could never see her loving parents and brothers at home again. The culprit was clearly in front of her, but Qin Hongyi just wanted to hear him say 3 words in person. In order to take revenge, Qin Hongyi had been following him and enduring for 50 years. Finally, she became the strongest person in the world and could finally swing the knife of anger accumulated in her heart for more than 50 years. Alas, Shen Shucho listened to Qin Hongyi's voice and sighed slightly in his heart. He understood her pain and hatred, and he felt sorry for Qin Hongyi. In the past 50 years, Shen Shucho has always known that Qin Hongyi hates him. On the surface, he is an obedient disciple, but in his heart, he wants him to die immediately. But Shen Shuchu's feelings for Qin Hongyi in the past 50 years are sincere, which is also to make Qin Hongyi hate him more and more, because he knows Qin Hongyi's life experience. No matter how he tortures him, he will never tell those 3 things to shake Qin Hongyi's heart. Everything Shen Shucho does is just to make Qin Hongyi quickly become the strongest villain in the world. There is a system hidden in Shen Shuchu's mind, a system that helps the heroine become a villain. Name: Shen Shucho. Cultivation: Mortal World, 9th World, Xuanming Continent. Female lead: Qin Hongyi. Note: since the host has not died yet, the stay time after completing the mission cannot exceed 2 months. It has been 57 days now. After 3 days, the host will die on its own and can return to the original world. Shen Shucho was originally just an ordinary high school boy on Blue Star. On a rainy day, he was severely punished by the great god of dump trucks. He had the speed and strength to surpass him. A high school student's truck came to capture him, but when he woke up again, he was in another world and awakened the 9th reincarnation system in his mind. The task given by the system is to let Shen Shucho find female protagonists who are still in their infancy in 9 different worlds and help them quickly become villains. It's just that this help is a little different, either to create a misunderstanding or to deceive with words. In short, the more the heroine hates him, the more she hates the world because of his death. As long as the hatred is deep enough, they will grow faster. As the saying goes, black words are 3 times stronger and whiteness is 3 times weaker. Just as Qin Hongyi hated Shen Shucho, he just appeared at the right time to create a misunderstanding, making her mistakenly believe that he had killed the whole family, thus planting the seeds of hatred. Shen Shucho felt pity for Qin Hongyi's experience in his heart. It seemed that in order to cover up his inner guilt, he devoted all his love to her. Shen Shucho had no foundation in the 9 worlds. He could only do tasks, and then he could go home. This is now his last mission. Qin Hongyi, the 9th generation, has now become the strongest person on the Xuanming continent and created the Heavenly Demon Sect to unify the Demon Sect and overwhelm all orthodox Taoist sects. There are still 3 days before he can return to his own world. Blue Star is the place where he really should stay. No matter how Qin Hongyi tortured him in the past 57 days, Shen Shucho accepted that it would be truly over in 3 days, and the journey of this 9 lives would also turn into a foam. Qin Hongyi pinched her chin with her hand. Shen Shucho, I'm going to ask you this one last time. You really don't want to tell me? After a while, Qin Hongyi still didn't hear the 3 words she wanted to hear, and her cold expression gradually lost her patience. In the next second, Qin Hongyi skillfully conjured up several small black insects in her hands. These were the heart-eating insects used to torture Shen Shucho every day. Once these insects penetrated the body, it would be impossible to survive without seeking death, cannot. Several bone-eating worms turned into black light and instantly penetrated into Shen Shucho's body. Suddenly, Shen Shucho's pale face twisted together, and a heartbreaking pain came from his body, as if someone was holding a knife and stabbed him. It cuts your flesh bit by bit, but you still stay awake during the critical process. Although Shen Shucho has become numb after being tortured by this heart-eating insect for so long, it still makes him worse than death every time. Shen Shucho's face was twisted in pain, and Qin Hongyi showed a happy expression, with a faint flush on his face. In the blink of an eye, 1 hour has passed. Shen Shucho was also tortured for a full hour, during which Qin Hongyi was accompanied by all kinds of cynicism, which almost tortured him to death. But every time at this time, Qin Hongyi would inject a burst of qi into his body to prevent him from dying. Shen Shucho really wished that he would die like this. Qin Hongyi quickly took back the heart-eating insect, looked at the skinny and inhuman Shen Shucho coldly, and turned to leave. Before leaving, Qin Hongyi glanced at the fresh food on the ground. A trace of struggle flashed in her eyes but was soon replaced by ruthless indifference. With a clicking sound, Qin Hongyi left the dark and damp cell, leaving only Shen Shucho's body like a dead dog kneeling on the ground. The old man was very angry, and the old man was very angry. Master, your subordinates have found something. A voice suddenly came from the token on Qin Hongyi's waist. Qin Hongyi's body trembled violently, and her voice trembled as she quickly replied, "Speak." The extermination of the Pingning town 50 years ago seems to be related to the Blood Demon sect. The Blood Demon sect is the sect that Qin Hongyi conquered after unifying the magic way. Was it the Blood Demon sect who did it? Qin Hongyi's eyes were full of murderous intent, and the surroundings were as cold as the cold winter in December. The next moment, Qin Hongyi's figure disappeared from the spot and headed towards the Blood Demon sect. If you really did it to the Blood Demon sect, I will destroy your entire sect. Qin Hongyi suddenly hoped that this was done by the Blood Demon sect. A few breaths later, Qin Hongyi appeared in a red dress above the Blood Demon sect. With her current cultivation in the Great Emperor realm, it would only take a few breaths to cross the void to a distant place. Qin Hongyi's eyes were cold, and she casually slashed the Blood Demon sect's protective barrier with a sword. Boom! In an instant, the barrier appeared layer by layer of cracks and instantly turned into nothingness. This sudden scene immediately alarmed everyone in the blood demon sect. All the disciples came out and waited for it. Qin Hongyi ignored these disciples and went straight to the place where the blood demon sect master was. Who dares to be presumptuous in the blood demon sect? Suddenly a loud shout came. An old man in a black patterned robe appeared above the blood demon sect. This man was the blood demon sect master Zhu Chenghai. As soon as Zhu Chenghai finished saying this, he saw a red figure appear in front of him. Seeing who was coming, Zhu Chenghai's body trembled, and he bowed his head and said respectfully, "I don't know why the emperor came to the blood demon sect." Qin Hongyi said coldly, "I have something to ask you. Your Majesty, just speak correctly, I will tell you if I know." Zhu Chenghai looked respectful. This is the first emperor of Xuanming continent, commanding 3,000 demons to suppress the righteous path and making them breathless. Their demons are usually hated by everyone, and there has never been such a scene. All of this came from the beautiful woman in red skirt in front of him. Qin Hongyi didn't waste any words, and immediately told the tragic case of the Qin family in Pingning town. Zhu Chenghai was shocked when he heard Qin Hongyi's cold words and the murderous intent that enveloped him. He had a deep impression of this incident. At that time, he was just an outer sect deacon elder of the blood demon sect, and his duty was to find some promising disciples for the sect. There are many small sects under the blood demon sect, one of which is called the Dark Ghost sect. The Dark Ghost sect once told him that a woman with a physique similar to that of an extremely yin spirit demon was found in a mountain town in the northern district. This incident was a great achievement for Zhu Chenghai. This was a physique that was rare in 1,000 years. Once he brought this woman back to the sect, he would definitely become an inner sect elder. In order to ensure that everything was foolproof, he personally went to the Dark Ghost sect and personally led some disciples to attack the small mountain town. Just when he thought that this matter was easy to grasp, a young man in white suddenly appeared. The young man was so powerful that they could not move just by his pressure. In the end, all the people he brought died under the sword. Fortunately, the young man did not kill him, which later became Zhu Chenghai's nightmare. Later, the reputation of the young man gradually spread across the continent, and his appearance of a sage was known to more people. The young man's name was Shen Shucho, and more people liked to call him the first swordsman of Xuanming continent. In addition to the dazzling brilliance of the swordsman, the girl who followed him all the year round also gradually became famous. Defeating various geniuses along the way and becoming the first of the younger generation, the name Qin Hongyi gradually became memorable. Zhu Chenghai learned that the girl next to the young man was the extremely yin spirit demon physique that he wanted to bring back to the sect that year, and was also the Qin Hongyi with raging demonic flames in front of him. Later, a major event happened in Xuanming continent. Qin Hongyi, who was next to Shen Zhansheng, achieved the realm of the great emperor without saying a word, and did something that surprised the world. Qin Hongyi killed his master in front of all the sects in the world, and personally pierced Shen Shuchu's life with a sword. This is not over yet. Qin Hongyi then launched a demon disaster to annihilate several righteous sects in one fell swoop and became the strongest demon sect in the world. Zhu Chenghai had kept this secret in his heart and had not told anyone. But now that Qin Hongyi suddenly asked him, he felt something was wrong. What would happen if Qin Hongyi knew that he was the one who killed her family? Zhu Chenghai trembled and dared not think about it. He dared to say this. ? As for the emperor, my subordinates don't know. Zhu Chenghai suppressed the fear in his heart and tried to remain calm. But how could his little moves be hidden from Qin Hongyi's eyes? Qin Hongyi looked at Zhu Chenghai's hidden appearance, and her guess was almost clear. Her body was trembling slightly, and the killing intent in her eyes was getting bigger and bigger, forming a storm. The next moment, a bloodthirsty red light flashed in Qin Hongyi's eyes and penetrated into the depths of Zhu Chenghai's soul. If she wanted to search for souls directly, how could the Tribulation Realm stop her from reaching the Great Emperor Realm? Soon, Qin Hongyi saw the picture she wanted in Zhu Chenghai's soul. She saw Zhu Chenghai leading a group of people to carry out bloody killings in Pingning town, and then she saw the figure who had been with her for 50 years. The appearance of Shen Shucho's figure was like a god descending to earth, killing these evil villains. Then walked into the Qin family courtyard that Qin Hongyi remembered from her childhood. Qin Hongyi saw Shen Shucho hugging his young self with a distressed look on his face. Stop crying, just follow me. Qin Hongyi seemed to hear Shen Shucho say these gentle words again. Ah! After exiting Zhu Chenghai's soul, Qin Hongyi raised his head and roared. It has been 50 years. She has been kept in the dark for 50 years. The man she had hated for the past 50 years turned out to be her savior. He, woo woo woo. This powerful sense of disparity hit her soul crazily at the moment she learned the truth. Qin Hongyi covered her face, crying and laughing like a madman. What followed was the murderous intent that filled the sky. The sky and the earth changed color, and the sky above the blood demon sect was shrouded in terrifying black clouds. Zhu Chenghai, who had his soul forcibly searched, became demented at the moment, and exploded into blood mist with a loud bang the next moment. Qin Hongyi's figure was heading in the direction she came from like crazy. She was going to see the person she had misunderstood all her life. Before leaving, everyone in the blood demon sect heard a cold and heartless words. The blood demon sect must be destroyed. In the cell, Shen Shucho felt very complicated as he saw that there were only 10 minutes left. Well, forget it, it will soon become a thing of the past. Qin Hongyi didn't come to torture him in the past 2 days, it didn't matter, since he was going to die soon. The next moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the calm cell without any warning. Qin Hongyi looked at the inhuman Shen Shucho who was being tortured by her, and felt strong regret in her heart. Quickly untying the chains, Shen Shucho was about to collapse due to long-term weakness. Qin Hongyi quickly hugged him deeply in her arms, tears welling up without words. Now that she had reached the realm of the great emperor, she didn't know how to speak, so she just hugged Shen Shucho tightly. Shen Shucho didn't know why Qin Hongyi was going crazy again. Maybe he was torturing himself in a different way. Anyway, there were only 10 minutes left, so let her go, but soon Shen Shucho noticed something was wrong. There seemed to be tears falling on her face. Qin Hongyi was crying. Shen Shucho couldn't help but feel heartbroken. He hadn't seen Qin Hongyi cry in many years. Red, Shen Shucho's voice became hoarse. Hearing Shen Shucho call out his name in his arms, Qin Hongyi's body trembled violently and she couldn't bear it anymore. Oh, master, I'm sorry. Hongyi blamed you wrongly. Hongyi made a mistake. Qin Hongyi's beautiful face was soaked with tears. Hearing this, Shen Shucho was startled. Then he slowly opened his eyes and closed them tightly. His eyes were a little blurry and he looked at Qin Hongyi, who was crying like a little girl in front of him, and said bitterly, "You know everything. Master, you all know that, right? Why don't you tell Hongyi that Hongyi made a mistake?" Master, Hongyi made a mistake. Qin Hongyi was trembling all over, her shoulders were shaking, and her mouth was choked with sobs. Shen Shucho was silent in his heart. He naturally knew about this, but he couldn't tell it. Hongyi, master is leaving, take good care of yourself from now on. Shen Shucho looked at Qin Hongyi with distressed eyes just like before. Qin Hongyi's heart twitched involuntarily, feeling that something important was about to disappear. Panic appeared on her beautiful face and she quickly used her spiritual power to check on Shen Shucho. Seeing this, Qin Hongyi's face became even more panicked, and she saw that Shen Shucho's life force was draining away rapidly. No, Master Hongyi will not let you die. Qin Hongyi choked with sobs and frantically injected qi into Shen Shucho's body. But doing so was of no avail, as the true energy entered Shen Shucho's body and disappeared. Qin Hongyi frantically took out a pill from her arms and was about to feed it to Shen Shucho. Shen Shucho just shook his head and looked at Qin Hongyi with pity. He already felt that he was being rejected by heaven, and there were only 2 minutes left. Seeing that Shen Shucho refused to eat, Qin Hongyi thought that the master was blaming her, and her heart. It hurt so hard. She put the elixir into her mouth and chewed it, then she determinedly picked up Shen Shucho's blushing lips and kissed them. You in red. Shen Shucho's eyes bulged, he didn't expect Qin Hongyi to do such a bold thing. Qin Hongyi's red lips pressed tightly against Shen Shucho's mouth, but he didn't resist. Qin Hongyi became even more impudent, prying open her teeth with her fragrant tongue and gently stirring Shen Shucho's tongue. The saliva intertwined together, as if wanting to completely release all the love at this moment. Qin Hongyi's beautiful face was as red as a ripe peach, making people salivate. A pair of peach blossom eyes gradually became blurred. Qin Hongyi kissed her passionately, enjoying the sense of betrayal between master and apprentice. But soon, Qin Hongyi felt that the master seemed to have become unreal. He opened his mouth and looked around, only to see that Shen Shuchou's body had become transparent and seemed to disappear the next moment. No, no, Qin Hongyi half knelt on the ground and said heartbreakingly. Hongyi, you have to be good. Shen Shuchou said fondly. After saying this, the figure completely turned into nothing and disappeared in front of Qin Hongyi. Master, don't leave Hongyi, woo, don't. Qin Hongyi suddenly crawled over and wanted to hug the disappearing body, but it was just a ball of air, and Shen Shuchou's figure was no longer in front of him. Qin Hongyi knelt on the ground, her red hair scattered and her body trembling uncontrollably as she sobbed. I killed the master, hee hee, woo. Qin Hongyi covered her heart, it hurt so much. I don't know how much time passed, but the crying in the cell gradually disappeared. Qin Hongyi stood up in despair, like a walking corpse without a soul. 3 days later, a piece of news spread on Xuanming continent. None of the 3,000 members of the Blood Demon sect survived. Every day after that, Qin Hongyi would come to the cell she had carefully built for Shen Shuchou. It's just that there is no longer the figure that she misses in this cell. Master, no matter where we are in the world, Hongyi will find you. Shen Shuchou. An angry shout followed by a hiss. A piece of chalk hit Shen Shuchou on the head accurately. Shen Shuchou raised his head from the desk in confusion and looked at his surroundings in confusion. The surrounding environment was strange yet familiar at the same time, and all the eyes were focused on him. Some were mocking, some were watching a show, some were amused. Looking ahead, a middle-aged bald man was looking at him angrily, with half of the chalk still in his hand. The dusty memories turned into a tide and flooded into my mind in an instant. Familiar names sounded in the bottom of my heart. Chen Nan, Fang Yu, Zhang Mingbin, am I back? Shen Shuchou murmured. Why, you Shen Shuchou came back from sleepwalking. How did you think that the teacher's words were farts? The bald middle-aged man on the stage said angrily. Ha 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 ha, is this guy Shen Shuchou too sleepy? Lao Wang dares to sleep in class, he is a cruel person. There were whispers in the classroom. Shut up, Shen Shuchou, please go out and stand and come to my office after class. The bald old Wang pointed at Shen Shuchou and said. With the joy of returning on his face, Shen Shuchou left his desk and walked out the door. Came back. After 9 reincarnations, he finally returned to the blue star he dreamed of. Little did he know that Shen Shuchou's expression of joy at the reunion looked like a playful smile to Lao Wang. When he came outside the door, Shen Shuchou found a dark-skinned young man standing next to him. Hey, brother Shen, why did you come out too? Are you worried that I would be lonely and came here to accompany me? The young man said in surprise. Shen Shuchou looked at the other person carefully. The young man was yellow and thin, with many pimples on his face. This is Xu Yang, Shen Shuchou's high school classmate, and the two of them play very well. Xu Yang was a little curious when he was looked at by Shen Shuchou. Brother Shen, why are you staring at me? Is there something on my face? It's nothing. Suddenly I feel like I haven't seen you for a long time and I miss you a little. Shen Shuchou put his hand on Xu Yang's shoulder and said in memory. These words that sounded disgusting immediately made Xu Yang grin and move aside. Brother Shen, you are confused. If you want a woman, you can't find me. It's not enough to add a man to a man. I have to leave it to my future wife. Woolen cloth. Roll roll roll. Shen Shuchou knew this guy was thinking crookedly and cursed with a smile. It feels so good to be back, whether it's the atmosphere on campus or the fun among friends. Shen Shuchou suddenly remembered something and asked quickly, what year, month and day is today? Xu Yang looked at him strangely, but still said, it is June 5, 2027. Brother Shen, why can't you even remember this? It's okay, maybe I was asleep. Shen Shuchou casually excused himself. But he was recalling this day in his heart. If he remembered correctly, Blue Star seemed to have been favored by the god of dump trucks in his previous life today. Then he traveled through another world and experienced a mission that lasted 9 reincarnations. I just don't know if my task is completed and the system is still there. Then Shen Shuchou checked to see if there was any panel improvement in his mind. Name, Shen Shucho. Cultivation. World. Blue Star. Note: as the host completes the 9 life reincarnation mission, he will be rewarded with a bonus of 9 life cultivation and enlightenment. Shen Shucho. The blue star where Shen Shucho lives also has a training system, but it can only be regarded as low-level martial arts. 40 years ago, unknown cracks appeared all over the world, and a large number of monsters emerged from them to harm the world. It was at this time that spiritual energy recovery was enabled, but the cultivation speed was very slow due to lack of spiritual energy on the blue star. The nascent soul stage is considered a powerful person in this world. My own cultivation in the 9th life was all systematically arranged. Whatever cultivation you were given would be the same and you could not be promoted. There was no need to practice at all. If you give yourself the 9th life cultivation as a reward, won't you become an invincible existence on Blue Star? After 9 generations of cultivation, Shen Shucho can almost do whatever he wants. No one can stop him. Even if he wants to destroy Blue Star, it is not impossible. But Shen Shucho had no fluctuations in his heart. The tempering of the mission of the 9th life had already ground his heart into a pool of stagnant water, and there would be no waves at all. Now he just wants to live peacefully and not worry about trivial matters. Just then the building rang with the sound of a jingle bell. The school bell rings. Lao Wang walked out of the classroom, looked at Shen Shucho and the others and said with a straight face, "Both of you, follow me." "It's over, it's over." Xu Yang's face drooped. Shen Shucho's expression remained calm. When he came to the office, Shen Shucho looked around. Now he looked at everything with curiosity and nostalgia. Lao Wang took a sip of tea and said, "Shen Shucho, tell me about you. You dare to sleep openly in class. Do you think you are doing it for me? If you don't practice hard, what will you do in the future? You won't be able to go to a good university and you won't have good resources. How do you support yourself?" Lao Wang looked at Shen Shucho with a stern expression and sighed slightly in his heart. As the head teacher, he knew everything about Shen Shucho's family situation. He grew up in a welfare orphanage and was later adopted by a couple. However, just last year, the couple was killed by a monster, and since then, only Shen Shucho is left. Although Shen Shucho has poor qualifications, he is still studious. Lao Wang usually takes special care of him, but today he unexpectedly fell asleep in class, which made him angry whether he was usually too good to him. "I'm sorry, director, I was wrong. I practiced too late last night and made me sleepy during the day. I won't do it next time." Shen Shucho sincerely apologized. Lao Wang's harsher words were preempted before he could say them. Seeing Shen Shucho's sincere look, his words softened. "Teacher, I know it's not easy for you. I won't do it again. If you encounter any difficulties in life, tell me. Go back." Bar. Shen Shucho couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. After dealing with Shen Shucho, Old Wang stared at Xu Yang who was rubbing his hands aside and was about to speak. "Teacher, I also know that I was wrong. I'm sorry that I won't dare to do it next time." Xu Yang quickly imitated Shen Shucho and was spared one scolding. Lao Wang immediately laughed out loud at Xu Yang's funny look. "What's wrong with you? What should I say to you? You're a bad fool who dares to molest a female classmate in my class. You are simply lawless." Xu Yang raised his head in shock, a little confused. "Isn't this right? Why do you treat me differently, Lao Wang? Call your parents over tomorrow." Lao Wang hated that iron could not make steel. "Oh no, if my father knows about this, I might blossom." Xu Yang frowned. Go, I see you have a headache." The furious Lao Wang kicked Xu Yang out directly. Xu Yang quickly caught up with Shen Shucho and said with a sad look on his face, "Oh. I will take the college entrance examination in more than 30 days. Brother Shen, do you have any secrets?" As the top performers of Class 5 and Grade 3 in high school, the two of them have always been at the bottom of the class in all grades. After being reminded, Shen Shucho remembered that he was going to take the college entrance examination in 30 days. They were the spiritual power test, the strength test, the speed test and the spiritual power test. A score of 500 was the entrance ticket to a lower university. A score below 500 I can only be a grassroots person. Shen Shucho had always wanted to be admitted to university in his previous life, but with his cultivation level, he was destined not to be admitted to university. Having just returned from this life, although Shen Shucho has gained cultivation, he lacks that thought. You should eat and drink, but you won't pass the exam anyway. Shu Yong looked at Shen Shucho with a shocked look on his face. Brother Shen, is this your method? You won't pass the exam anyway, just be happy every day. Shen Shucho said with a casual smile. I'm not as aggressive as you. Besides, Brother Shen, aren't you the same? Shu Yong's whole body wilts. If you don't get into college, you are destined to become an ordinary person. The only way out is to work or work as a thug for those families. But being a thug also requires good cultivation. No one wants either of them as thugs. Just as the two of them came to the school gate, Shu Yong immediately grabbed Shen Shucho and said, Brother Shen, look, isn't that your goddess Chu Sichi? Following his gaze, he saw a Rolls-Royce parked not far from the school gate, and a girl in a pink dress walked into the back seat. Shu Yong said with envy, it's great to have money. Brother Shen, I advise you to give up. You can't catch a girl like this. Shen Shucho's face was calm, and there was a hint of self-mockery in the corner of his mouth. In the last life, Shen Shucho Ming was still a secret lover and wrote many love letters to Chu Sichi, but there was no response. The two of them barely exchanged a few words. Occasionally, Shen Shucho mustered up the courage to talk to Chu Sichi, but the response he received was just, yes. In fact, Shen Shucho was not the only one. Most of the boys in the school had this idea, but they all gave up halfway. Chu Sichi was the same to everyone and had never seen her behave intimately with any boy. It's really childish to think about this again when I come back. Here Shu Yong was still staring at the back of the car and chattering incessantly. When he turned around, he saw that Shen Shucho had already walked away. There was a continuous rain in the sky in Sioux City, and the air was slightly cool. Shen Shucho walked on the wet street, heading towards the home in his memory. In my memory, Shen Shucho lived in an old community in the suburbs and had to take the bus to school every morning. Shen Shucho did not choose to live on campus, but chose to go to school as a day student. For people like him who are far away from school, it is better to live on campus. But Shen Shucho still chooses to go to day school because he is an orphan. He chooses to go to day school because he wants to return to his own small home every time. His adoptive parents took him home from the welfare orphanage and raised him ever since. People are prone to misfortunes and fortunes, and the sky is unpredictable. In his sophomore year of high school, his adoptive father and mother died in an accident due to a monster riot. All that was left to Shen Shucho was a house and a sum of savings. Since then, Shen Shucho has become taciturn, and has changed from a boarding student to a day student. Every time he comes home, he feels as if his family is still there. Unknowingly, Shen Shucho came to the gate of the community, and there were 3 large characters, Jinbiwan, written on it with peeling paint. Xiao Shen is back. An old man at the security booth showed his head and said hello. Shen Shucho searched a name from the ocean of memory and smiled. Uncle Zhang is back. Jinbiwan community is mostly populated by elderly people who are recuperating there, and the neighbors are very familiar with each other, so they know exactly what happens in each house. After something happened to his adoptive father and mother, these neighbors often tried their best to help Shen Shucho in his daily life. You silly boy, it's raining and you don't bring an umbrella. Come in and warm yourself up. There's air conditioning inside. Uncle Zhang extended his hand to greet him. It's just light rain, so I won't bother Uncle Zhang. I'm going home first. Shen Shucho declined the kindness. You kid, Xiao Yu can catch a cold. Okay, go home quickly. Saying goodbye to security guard Uncle Zhang, Shen Shucho walked inside. He lived in room 601, Unit 2, Building 3, Jinbiwan. He took the elevator and arrived at the door of his home quickly. Taking a deep breath, he fumbled for the key from his pocket, inserted it into the lock cylinder and turned it. Pushing open the door, Shen Shucho walked in. The changes in his home were the same as in his memory. With a simple layout of 3 bedrooms, 1 living room, 1 kitchen and 1 bathroom, the room was dark and seemed a bit deserted. Turn on the lights on the wall, and the yellow-brown light falls on the living room to dispel the darkness, as if to bring a little warmth to the home. Shen Shucho opened the refrigerator, took out the milk, opened it, and took 2 gulps. The cold feeling slipped into his taste buds, seeming to disperse Shen Shucho's boiling heart. Then he walked to a bedroom and stopped. This was the room of his adoptive father and mother. After staying for a moment, he turned the handle and walked in to turn on the light. What he saw was a photo hanging on the wall. The photo was taken when the adoptive father and mother got married. The corners of their mouths were raised with happy smiles. Shen Shuchou's adoptive mother is Fu Yan, and his adoptive father Wei Wenming both work in ordinary jobs. Shen Shuchou walked to the bed and sat down. There was a small photo album on the bedside table. Shen Shuchou tremblingly picked up the photo album and opened it bit by bit. The first photo inside was of his adoptive mother Fu Yan and his adoptive father Wei Wenming. There is also a little boy about 4 or 5 years old in the middle. The little boy has an awkward expression on his face, and the three of them are standing together hand in hand. There is also a line of small words at the bottom of the photo album. On July 7, 2013, I, Fu Yan, and I, Wei Wenming, adopted our adopted son Shen Shuchou today. The name Shen Shuchou was given to him by the deputy director of the welfare orphanage. His adoptive parents did not change his surname after they adopted him. The back of the album is basically full of photos of their family of 3. There is Shen Shuchou wearing a down jacket standing in the snow with a snowman piled next to him. There are photos of a family of 3 hiking together in the mountains, photos of dinner parties, and photos of Shen Shuchou celebrating his birthday. Under each photo, without exception, there is a line of words recording that beautiful day. A photo album was flipped over in his hands, and before he knew it, Shen Shuchou's eyes were filled with tears. Crystal bitter tears fell on the photo album. Shen Shuchou wiped away his tears with his hands and said with a choked voice, "Dad. Mom, Shen Shuchou is back. After 9 lifetimes of reincarnation, it has been thousands of years, and I finally returned to the little home I cherished so much." No one knew how Shen Shuchou was feeling when he saw his parents again. Sad, happy, missing or excited cannot be described. There were 120 photos in a photo album, and Shen Shuchou looked at them for a full hour. Close the photo album and leave Shen Shuchou. Leave the bedroom and gently close the door. The raindrops in the dark sky outside the window slowly turned into a downpour. Boom! There was thunder rolling in the dark clouds in the distance. Shen Shuchou walked around the house, looking at this and that. Now he was full of deep nostalgia for everything in this house. After a while, he pushed open his bedroom. As soon as he opened the door, Shen Shuchou frowned and saw that the room was like a doghouse, with clothes scattered everywhere. "Were you so sloppy in your previous life?" Shen Shuchou smiled helplessly. Boys' rooms are messy and smelly. If someone's room is as tidy as a girl's room, that's really cool. After spending half an hour tidying up the room, he took off his clothes and lay down on the bed. Now that Shen Shuchou has cultivated his 9th life, tidying up the room can be done entirely with his mind, but he wants to do it himself. Shen Shuchou is now equivalent to an immortal person. He does not need to sleep or eat, and no one in this world can hurt him. Shen Shuchou doesn't know how to use his cultivation to do anything, he just needs to be an ordinary person. He was tired of all the fighting, killing and everything in the 9th reincarnation. It's fine to be alone now. Xuanming Continent. Tianjianmen, Qinhongyi, don't go too far. Don't think that since you are in the Great Emperor realm, there is no way to deal with you. Jian Shao looked at the beautiful woman in a red dress not far away with fear. If I remember correctly, you once attacked my master in the Netherworld Valley. Qin Hongyi's beautiful eyes were evil, and her whole body was full of murderous aura. Qin Hongyi, what are you going to do? It was true that I attacked your master by surprise, but now you have killed your master, so why bother with all that pretense now? Jian Shao mocked. Jian Shao's words fell on Qin Hongyi's ears, and severe pain arose in her heart. Yes, she killed her master with her own hands in front of everyone in the world. The master who had loved her for 50 years was killed by herself. Qin Hongyi has been thinking in the past few days that her master is gone. What's the point of living? I want to find the master to atone for her sins, but before that, she has to liquidate the people who have hurt Shen Shuchou one by one. As long as you admit it, everyone who has hurt the master will die. Qin Hongyi's beautiful eyes were filled with murderous intent. A snow-colored long sword appeared in his hand. This was Shen Shuchou's sword Lengxiang. Now she will personally use this sword to kill those who have hurt him. The next moment, Qin Hongyi slowly raised her hand, and Lang Shang slashed it in front of her. When the sword was slashed out, the color of the world changed. The avenue runes in the void surround the sword. A dazzling sword light lit up in the sky, like a falling star. The terrifying sword energy dragged the rainbow, and the sword energy from all directions gathered in the force of thousands of troops, and there was no corpse under the iron hoof. "You're crazy." Cold sweat broke out on Jian Xiao's forehead. He didn't expect that this crazy woman would really dare to take action. Wouldn't she be afraid of attracting siege from all the sects? Not allowing him to think too much, he quickly took action to resist. When Qin Hongyi's sword shattered the galaxy, his resistance was like an ant shaking a tree, overestimating his own strength. In just an instant, the sword energy in the sky was shattered and rushed towards him. No, Jian Xiao's pupils were filled with sword energy and dilated. The next moment, Jian Xiao's body became annihilated under the sword energy. 1,000-foot-deep sword-marked crack abyss appeared in front of the heavenly sword gate, and a storm of icy sword energy raged around it. From now on, the disciples of Tianjian sect are not allowed to take even one step, otherwise they will be killed without mercy. After killing Zhang Zhao, Qin Hongyi coldly dropped a word and rushed into the clouds. There was an uproar in Tianjian sect. The head of the Mahayana realm of Tianjian sect died after being unable to block a single sword blow. Qin Hongyi's words were directly equivalent to shutting down the entire Tianjian sect. Of course, some disciples expressed dissatisfaction. Just half a step out of the gate, a sword energy flew out from the sword mark abyss and tore the disciple's body apart instantly with lightning speed. Blood mist exploded in the air, and all the Tianjian sect disciples retreated in fear. From then on, the disciples of Tianjian sect were like mice and could only sneak out through the back door. The two of them were in a state of panic, and the two of them were in a state of panic. Qin Hongyi sat in the cell holding Lang Shang. She would come here every time. It seemed as if the smell of the master still remained here. In the past few days, Qin Hongyi killed almost all the people who had hurt the master. No one was spared, whether they were righteous or evil. The major sects on the Xuanming continent were in a state of panic, fearing that this crazy woman would come to them if she was not satisfied. Behind her back, they called Qin Hongyi a crazy woman. You killed the master in front of the world. Now she is killing people under the guise of revenge for the master. Many sects even plan to unite to deal with Qin Hongyi. But Qin Hongyi is at the great emperor level after all. In the past few days, many Mahayana levels could not even stop her for one round, and these sects have not dared to make up their minds. Master, Hongyi is wrong, Hongyi is really wrong. Qin Hongyi said sadly with tears in her beautiful eyes. Qin Hongyi has been living in the pain of dire straits these days. In addition to her parents, even the most important master in her life has left her. Her heart is as painful as a knife. It seems that the master she has misunderstood for 50 years is her savior, and she killed her beloved master with her own hands. After the hatred disappeared, it was the love that was late for 50 years, but before she could pour all her love into it, the master left her in advance. Hee. Woo. Master, Hongyi will come to accompany you now. Qin Hongyi's beautiful face seemed to cry and laugh sadly and self-deprecatingly. Ha! Shen Shuqiu suddenly woke up from the bed. His back was covered with cold sweat. He actually had a nightmare. Shen Shuqiu rubbed his face hard. He decided to come down and be an ordinary person, so he naturally had to sleep and eat like an ordinary person. But he didn't expect that he would have a nightmare this time. Shen Shuqiu sat on the bed and carefully recalled the scenes in his dream, but he couldn't remember anything, but he felt a little melancholy in his heart, as if something was about to be pulled out. Unexpectedly, he simply stopped thinking about it, turned on his mobile phone and saw that it was already 5:30 in the morning. Shen Shuqiu got dressed and got up from the bed. After a simple wash, he started to prepare breakfast. There was no food at home, but there were quite a few eggs in the kitchen refrigerator. Shen Shuqiu wouldn't be hungry anyway, so it didn't matter what he ate. Simply took out 3 eggs and made fried eggs. After a while, Shen Shuqiu looked at the blackened poached eggs on the dining table and fell into deep self-doubt. I haven't cooked for too long, how come I can't even make a fried egg now? Shen Shuqiu, adhering to the concept of never wasting food, frowned and put the fried egg into his mouth to taste it. This bite almost made Shen Shuqiu vomit, and he quickly drank some milk to relieve it. Just 2 words, unpalatable, and 2 more words, it is extremely unpalatable. Hard to swallow. During the whole process, Shen Shucho ate with a frown. It seems that I have to learn to cook again. After cleaning up the dishes, Shen Shucho left home. It was already 6:30 when he arrived at the bus stop, and the bus came soon. He put in 2 yuan to find an empty seat and sat down. Soon a purple-clothed girl came up from the next bus stop. The girl was very beautiful, with a beautiful face with a pure feeling that was not like the turbid world, and a gentle posture like the bright moon in the sky. It happened that Shen Shucho still remembered this girl, who was his classmate sitting behind him named Xiao Miao. However, the 2 of them had basically nothing to say in their previous life. He was so focused on Chu Sichi that he had no time to look at other women. Shen Shucho just thought that his previous life was a little funny. Xiao Miao found an empty seat far away from the others when she got on the bus, as shy as a frightened little rabbit. Shen Shucho didn't look at her either, and closed his eyes to rest alone. After a while, the bus stopped not far from the school gate. The 2 got off the bus one after the other, and no one said hello. After getting off the bus, they bumped into Xu Yang, who was walking from the east side of the school gate. Xu Yang looked at Shen Shucho and Xiao Miao with his 2 little eyes. "What are you going to say again?" Shen Shucho said helplessly when he saw his thief look. "Brother Shen, what is your relationship with Xiao Miao?" Xu Yang gossiped on the side. No relationship. No relationship, you 2 go to school together." Xu Yang expressed his disbelief. "She lives in the neighborhood next to mine. Is it weird that we take the same bus?" Shen Shucho rolled his eyes. "You even know where she lives, and you still say you have no relationship." Xu Yang seems to have discovered the key points of capture in the new world. Shen Shucho didn't even bother to pay attention to him and simply couldn't read it back. Xu Yang kept chattering like a fly. "Brother Shen, you still have a chance to pursue Xiao Miao. Women like Chu Sichi are not something you can get your hands on. It's not my brother who wants to attack you." While Xu Yang was talking, a Rolls-Royce parked in front of the school gate without any mistake. The driver immediately took a detour and opened the door, and Chu Siki's figure walked out like a star holding the moon. As soon as she appeared, she immediately attracted the attention of many people in front of the school gate. Almost everyone, regardless of gender, did not miss her. Shen Shucho just glanced briefly and continued walking towards the school. I have to say that Chu Sichi is indeed good-looking, with a pink face, thin and long eyebrows, and slightly raised beautiful eyebrows. The red mouth makes people salivate, and they can't help but want to taste this ripe fruit. But Chu Siki's whole person revealed that she should not approach strangers. She was so cold that she never had any friends in class and she always kept to herself. She is like a shining star in the Milky Way, looking down on the world. But often, the colder the appearance of a woman, the easier it is for a man to arouse the desire to conquer her. I really don't know whose hands such a woman will fall into in the future. Xu Yang said regretfully. This has nothing to do with Shen Shucho. No one in him will pay too much attention to it now. Then he followed the footsteps of the crowd on campus and returned to the familiar class 3 and 5. As soon as he entered the class, Lao Wang followed everyone in. The originally noisy classroom became quiet the moment Lao Wang appeared. Lao Wang patted the table and said, "Now I have something to announce. There will be a small physical examination of spiritual affinity in the afternoon. You all should be prepared." As soon as these words came out, everyone in the audience immediately started whispering. There are excitement, sadness, all kinds of expressions. It's over. My spiritual affinity is definitely not up to par. Xu Yang lay on his desk dejectedly. Aren't you worried? Xu Yang looked at Shen Shucho, who looked calm, and asked. What are you worried about? If you can survive, you can survive. What's the use of worrying about what you can't? Shen Shucho said calmly. Hiss. Don't say it. I don't seem so sad anymore after hearing what you said. Shen Shucho gave him a roll of his eyes and didn't even bother to talk to him. For the spiritual affinity test, Shen Shucho only planned to control it within the qualified line and did not intend to be too high profile. You're a great emperor, but now you're crying your heart out. It's really embarrassing for your master. A cold female voice suddenly sounded in the cell. Who? Qin Hongyi suddenly raised her head, her pretty face full of murderous intent. The next moment, a colorful vortex appeared in front of Qin Hongyi, and a figure wearing a hazy starry radiance walked out of it. Qin Hongyi looked at the hazy woman in front of her with hostility. Who are you? She felt the majestic energy from it like the stars and the sea, which was no less than her own. It doesn't matter who I am, what's important is that I can help you find your master. The hazy woman said. Master is not dead. What you said is true. Qin Hongyi looked like a madman, her beautiful eyes were red and she stared at the woman in front of her. HMPH. Of course your master is not dead. I am the only one who can help you now. The hazy woman snorted coldly. Qin Hongyi forced herself to calm down and said, but why should I believe you? I haven't told you who you are. It doesn't matter who I am, what's important is that you can only trust me. The hazy woman said lightly. Then what should I do? Qin Hongyi asked one after another. When it's time to look for you, I will look for you. After saying this, the hazy woman retreated from the colorful vortex, leaving Qin Hongyi alone in the prison to think. In a galaxy, a hazy woman appears here, surrounded by the light of stars. She murmured, if it weren't for finding the young master, why would I cooperate with you, a idiot who hurt the young master? When I find the young master, I will make you look good. Sir, I miss you so much. Where are you? The hazy woman's face showed an expression of infatuation, and her body couldn't help but twist. Time flies quickly before the last class of the evening begins. There are still 10 minutes left before the psychic affinity test. Shen Shuqiu closed his eyes and rested in his seat. Xu Yang, who was at the same table, rarely disturbed him. But within a short while, Xu Yang started to pull at him and kept saying, Brother Shen, look, that silly boy Luo Hao is here again. Shen Shuqiu opened his eyes helplessly. A young man wearing a formal suit and a busket appeared at the door of the classroom, holding a bunch of gorgeous roses in his hand. Master Luo is here to pursue Chu Siqi again. He really has that perseverance. I've been pursuing her since my freshman year in high school, and I've been sending flowers every day. If it were me, I would have to agree the next day. With money and good looks, the only one who can disagree is Chu Siqi. The classmates around him pointed at Luo Hao. Shen Shuqiu still had a big impression in his heart when he looked at Luo Hao. Chu Siqi had many suitors, and some of them chased her once or twice before being dissuaded by her repulsive attitude. There are also people who only dare to write love letters and don't even have the courage to approach and talk to someone. But Luo Hao is different. This guy is like a dog's skin plaster, and he keeps pestering him. It is commonly said that a dead pig is not afraid of being scalded by boiling water, and his skin is almost thicker than that of the city wall. Luo Hao had a panoramic view of everyone's expressions, and came to Chu Siqi with his head held high and flowers in his hands. Siqi, today is the 530th day I have prepared for you. There is also a box of Yunling pills I bought for you. It will be helpful for your spiritual affinity test. Luo Hao looked at Chu Siqi affectionately. Side face said. Luo Hao, this is really a big deal. He's giving away all the spirit-acquiring pills. If I remember correctly, there are 10,000 of them. Xu Yang's face was full of envy. Shen Shuqiu shook his head. He spent a lot of money to buy one of the Yunling pills in his last life, and it was of some use. However, taking just one pill had little effect, mainly because of the lack of spiritual energy on the blue star. Chu Siqi promise him. Yes. Promise Luo Hao. I don't know who suddenly raised his voice like this. After saying that, he gave Luo Hao an okay look, which was obviously like a drag. There were many voices in the class, all of them were just watching the excitement and making noise together. Luo Hao raised his head proudly. Ever since he met Chu Siqi in his freshman year of high school, he had been deeply attracted by her charming face that looked like the stars and the moon. The cold iceberg temperament on his body also deeply held him, arousing Luo Hao's strong desire to conquer. He believed that one day Chu Siqi would be moved by his deep feelings and throw herself into his arms. At this moment, Shen Shuqiu suddenly thought of a sentence, Nguyen men ranks behind the dogs. Don't call me Siqi. I'm not familiar with you. Take your things and disappear from me. Chu Siqi said with a cold face. Siqi, please accept my things and I'll leave. Luo Hao said, if you don't accept it, I will just stand here and not leave. Chu Siqi immediately threw the things on the table behind her, and Shen Shucho said in a cold voice, "I'll give it to you." Luo Hao's eyes immediately looked over, with a warning in his eyes. As if he hadn't seen it, Shen Shucho pushed it to his deskmate Xu Yang and said, "Here. I'll give it to you." "Huh, no." Xu Yang, who was eating melon and watching a show, suddenly realized that the melon seemed to have turned into himself. All the eyes around him were focused on him, and Xu Yang's dark expression suddenly felt a little at a loss. Luo Hao turned his dangerous eyes to Xu Yang, and the meaning was self-evident. "Master Luo, give me." Xu Yang scratched his head in embarrassment and was about to push the thing to the other party. The next moment a hand held him down. "Don't let others down," Shen Shucho said lazily. Xu Yang was too embarrassed to answer the question. "What are you all doing here?" At the door of the classroom, Lao Wang walked in with a teacup under his arm and saw Luo Hao's figure. He immediately showed displeasure and said, "Luo Hao, go back to your own class. This kid Luo Hao comes to harass the female classmates in his class every day. He has already become unhappy. I have reported this to the principal many times but to no avail. Luo Hao has a powerful background." "Hello, Teacher Wang," Luo Hao said calmly without getting angry, and then said to Chu Siqi, "Siqi, I'm going back. I'll come back tomorrow." Before leaving, he took a deep look at Shen Shucho. The classroom also became quiet with the presence of Lao Wang. "Today is a small test of your spiritual power. The next few days will be tests of strength, speed, and spirituality. This is about whether you can." The watershed moment of not being able to get into college or even a good university cheered me up. Quote. As soon as these words came out, many people's faces instantly turned ugly. It's over, 110 is considered qualified. I guess I'm only at 70. Xu Yang said with a bitter look on his face. "Don't you have Yunling pill? If you take a few pills now, you might be qualified." Shen Shucho said with a smile. "Stop making fun of me at this time, how dare I ask for this?" Xu Yang said angrily. "By the way, how much do you think you can achieve?" "I don't know," Shen Shucho said calmly. "Some people are born with a high affinity for spiritual energy, and their cultivation speed is like taking a high-speed train. Those with poor affinity can cultivate as fast as a green train." In the previous life, Shen Shucho once measured his spiritual affinity, which was only around 60. This is a very poor affinity level. However, after practicing, the fluctuation is only around 60. Now, each one of you, put your hands on it and calmly mobilize your spiritual energy. The rest of you should shut up. Lao Wang slammed the table and yelled angrily. Then he took out a round bronze mirror-like object and placed it on the desk at the front desk. A girl with a bun in the front row of the classroom walked up first and nervously put her hands on the test panel. After a moment, a green light flashed on the test instrument panel, and the girl's hand released immediately, and a line of numbers appeared. Lao Wang took a look and shook his head. 85 is not qualified. The girl returned to her seat with a disappointed face and secretly wiped her tears. Next, Lao Wang continued to shout. The next boy put his hand up nervously, and then a light flashed and the numbers appeared. Lao Wang looked a little ugly. If you fail 80, you will be next. The two who came up at the beginning were actually unqualified. Among the 4 tests, spiritual affinity is the most important, as it is related to the speed of cultivation. But the next boy who came up made Lao Wang's expression soften a little. Li Shuo is also one of the people that Lao Wang is more optimistic about in the class. Li Shuo is the tall and thin type. He usually seems to be honest and obedient, which makes him quite popular with Lao Wang. After Li Shuo removed his hands, 3 numbers popped up on the test chair plate. 110 passed. Lao Wang showed a smile. 110 is just stuck on the passing line, but it would be great if it can pass, there is still room for improvement. 95 is unqualified. 107 failed. The classmates came up one after another, and Lao Wang's face changed back and forth like the magic lights in KTV. The next person who was about to go up for the test stood up and immediately attracted everyone's attention. Even Lao Wang showed an expectant expression. Chu Siqi walked forward step by step like a mysterious goddess from the 9 heavens with a dazzling aura. Guess how friendly she is. Xu Yang on the side became restless again. How did I know? Shen Shucho said speechlessly. However, He knew that Chu Siki's affinity would never be low, and he could see the vibrant spiritual energy surrounding her. Sure enough, the next moment, Chu Sichi took her hand away from the test instrument panel, which immediately caused a cry. I care about 150, so high. As expected of me, I am the goddess Chu. Quiet, quiet. Lao Wang slapped the table as a gesture, and he couldn't hide the look of satisfaction on his face. After Chu Sichi, no one has exceeded 150, and the remaining highest is only 120. Xiaomiao's spiritual affinity also reached a good 115. The two of them soon arrived. Xu Yong went up first, and then rolled down in disgrace. His spiritual affinity was only 75, which immediately caused ridicule in the class. The affinity level is only 75, which is the lowest in our class. Even if a dog is trained, it will be higher than this 75. I guess there are people lower than him. These two crane tails are really rat shit. That's right, these two should be kicked out of class 5 to avoid bringing us down. Hearing the constant sarcasm in his ears, Xu Yong's dark face turned red, and then everyone looked at Shen Shucho one by one. Shen Shucho walked forward calmly. Xu Yong behind him kept comforting himself, "It's okay and brother Shen is with me." When there is a group of people with poor grades in the class, they will always look for those with poor grades to hug together for warmth. Shen Shucho looked at the test instrument panel in front of him, and with a movement of his mind, the aura around him was instantly controlled to a certain level. When the line of 3 numbers 110 appeared on the test instrument panel, the class once again started a frenzy, no less than Chu Siki's 150. I'm such a coquettish guy. Isn't it dazzling? The crane tailman in our class, Shen Shucho, actually passed the test. Cheating must be cheating. Impossible, this is impossible, Shen Shu. The last time I tested Chu, I only got 60 points. How could I possibly make such a big leap this time? Quote. Everyone opened their mouths in disbelief, and the ridicule just now was swallowed like a dead child. Shen Shucho calmly returned to his seat as if nothing happened. This calm look made other people gnash their teeth, and they felt like they were showing off. Lao Wang was also a little stunned. For a moment, he wondered if the spiritual power tester was broken, or if it was really cheating. Otherwise, how could the impression of Shen Shucho, the man behind the crane, suddenly be qualified? But the next moment, Lao Wang threw this idea away. Progress is always a good thing. How could he think of the other party like this? Returning to his seat, Shen Shucho saw Xu Yong staring at him with resentful eyes, like a bullied little daughter-in-law. What are you doing? Shen Shucho said strangely. Xu Yong said quietly, you abandoned me. Stop disgusting me. Xu Yong's dark face had a wronged look, and Shen Shucho felt goosebumps. We agreed to be the tail end of the industry together, but you, my friend, have secretly made progress. You haven't abandoned me. Unless you tell me how you make progress, I will forgive you. A friend's failure is heartbreaking, but a friend's success is suffocating. Xu Yong asked with wide eyes. He is now filled with 100,000 whys. With all the encyclopedia of questions and answers integrated into his mind, he still can't figure out why Shen Shucho has made such great progress. Shen Shucho couldn't explain to him, so he just casually excused himself. During the whole class, Xu Yong's mouth was never idle, and he kept chattering like a mosquito next to him. With no other choice, Shen Shucho decisively chose to report him to Lao Wang. As expected, Xu Yong was kicked out of the classroom with shocked eyes. After the course, Shen Shucho was called to the office by Lao Wang immediately. Lao Wang looked at Shen Shucho with a complicated expression for a long time and then said, have you been having any difficulties in life recently? Shen Shucho shook his head. No, everything is fine. Your spiritual affinity is very good now. You should also work hard on other aspects to get into a university. It doesn't matter where you go. The key is to get into it. After speaking, Lao Wang took out a package of things wrapped in yellow paper from under the table and stuffed it into Shen Shucho's hand without any explanation. Shen Shucho looked at the thing in his hand in shock. After touching it, he knew it was money. Teacher Wang, I don't need it. He wanted to return it immediately. But Lao Wang refused with a straight face. This is my personal name for you, just take it. Your spiritual affinity is not enough now. Go buy some monster flesh and blood to nourish your chi and blood. In terms of strength and speed, There's nothing else to say. This is the teacher's private money. You can find a way to pay it back to me after you get into college. Lao Wang was afraid that Shen Shuqiu would not accept it, so he directly said that he wanted to pay it back. The grade 3 and 5 classes he leads are the most difficult in Shen Shuqiu's family. As a teacher, he can help sometimes. Living expenses have been provided before, but they were not much. But today, when Shen Shuqiu's spiritual affinity of 110 came out, he saw hope. There were a total of 27 spiritual affinity in the class of 53 people qualified. Although the money is not more than 10,000 yuan, it is still his 2 months' salary. The words have come to this point, and if you don't accept them, it won't be justified, even if Shen Shuqiu really doesn't need it now. With his current 9th generation cultivation, he can completely walk sideways, but this is Lao Wang's unwillingness and will only make him feel cold. Just find an opportunity later to return double the amount. I sincerely thanked him and was kicked out by Lao Wang. As soon as he walked out of the school gate, he saw Xu Yang waiting for him from a distance. Brother Shen, let's go masturbate together. I'll show you a giant lava beast, just to celebrate for you that your spiritual affinity is up to standard. Xu Yang raised his eyebrows and said, how can you celebrate others like this? Shen Shuqiu smiled upon hearing this. My living expenses have been deducted by my mother now. Otherwise, if I invite you to a big dinner, just tell me whether you want to go or not. I usually play jungle. Today I will give you a lava beast. You can play as a jungler. So, let's go then. Shen Shuqiu didn't care either. Besides, he hadn't masturbated for a long time, so he just wanted to enjoy it. After 1 hour, Shen Shuqiu looked at the gray color on the computer, and then looked at Yasuo at 0 to 21 on the panel, which was a bit dazzling. Look at the 0 to 18 stone man again. The two brothers didn't say a word. Beautiful Chinese characters in the chat box keep greetings. These two are elementary school students. I really want to come to your home and install a fake limb. Quote, spread some rice on the keyboard. Brother Kun, who has practiced for 2.5 years, is better than you two. You two are human, I'll eat it directly. Lava Behemoth, respawns in 5 seconds. Lava Behemoth, respawns in 4 seconds. Gale Swordsman, survive. Gale Swordsman, survive. After 40 minutes of torture, the game was finally over. Then the two brothers reached a tacit agreement not to play the second game, turned off the computer and walked out of the internet cafe, enjoying the cool night breeze. Well, Brother Shen, I'll go back first. Shen Shuqiu hummed softly. The two left in opposite directions, with bold words at the beginning and silence at the end. After walking for a while, Shen Shuqiu saw a car parked on the roadside in front of him. The tail number Su 8888 is responsible for picking up Chu Siqi's Rolls Royce every day. Why hasn't Chu Siqi gone back so late? Shen Shuqiu looked at the time on his phone and found that it was almost 11 o'clock. Through the car window, someone seemed to be tapping on the car window. In the back seat of the Rolls Royce, Chu Siqi was restrained by large straps. There were 4 men in black wearing masks in the car. The man in black in the driver's seat was talking to someone on the phone. Through the car window, Chu Siqi saw Shen Shuqiu on the other side of the road, and a fire of hope suddenly ignited in her heart. Taking advantage of the gap when the man in black was not looking at her, he quickly hit his head on the glass, trying to break the glass so that Shen Shuqiu on the other side of the road could find her and call the police for her. However, Chu Siqi still underestimated the thickness of the glass. The special bulletproof glass specially installed by her family to protect her could not be broken by hitting it with her head. Ooh, Chu Siqi's mouth was blocked and she could only make a whimpering sound. Through the car window, I saw Shen Shuqiu walking straight ahead without any intention of looking this way. Chu Siqi's face became even paler, and her heart became darker. Let her calm down, the main driver in black said in a cold tone. The next moment, a hand knife struck the back of Chu Siqi's neck, and she fainted immediately. After a while, the man in black answered the phone and said respectfully, "It's the boss, I'll send it to her now." After speaking, he first observed Shen Shuqiu not far away through the car window. Seeing that the other party was not aware, he started the vehicle and drove towards the destination. After leaving, a glint flashed in Shen Shuqiu's eyes. Who is so bold as to kidnap someone from the Chu family? Shen Shucho thought for a moment. He could see everything inside clearly through the car window. To save or not to save? Shen Shucho stood there and was a little confused. When he returned to Blue Star, his purpose was just to be an ordinary person. But Chu Sichi was kidnapped in front of her. It felt a little unreasonable not to save her. If she did, she would probably get into trouble later. That's it. A classmate. Shen Shucho sighed slightly, and his figure turned into a neon light in the night sky and flashed away. There are few stars in the sky at night. Outside an abandoned factory in the eastern suburbs of Sioux City, a black Rolls-Royce with license plate 8888 was parked outside the factory. The 5 people in the car got out of the car one after another, including Chu Sichi, who was tied up like a rice dumpling. A man in black opened the trunk, and there was a bloated middle-aged man tied up inside. Judging from the suit and the pair of white gloves, this man was the driver of the Rolls-Royce. 4 men in black took the 2 men deep into the dark factory building. Shen Shucho's figure was as light as an owl landing on the iron sheet of the factory building at night. The darkness seemed like daylight in Shen Shucho's eyes, and he could clearly see everything in the factory. The man in black tied Chu Sichi to the pillar again, and the other 3 were responsible for guarding. The remaining person opened his cell phone in the dark and dialed a number. The call was connected in less than 3 seconds, and the man in black said in a respectful tone, "The boss has brought it here, okay." After a brief narration, Shen Shucho hung up the phone. Shen Shucho heard a very young male voice on the other side of the phone. "Boss, this Miss Chu is really pretty. I've played with so many women, but I've never played with anyone as pretty as Miss Chu. Now I feel like all my play with her has been in vain." A man in black stared at the frightened Chu Sichi with bright eyes. "Fourth brother, what are you thinking about? This person is not something you can touch. Put away your dirty thoughts." The leading man in black looked unhappy. He, I just feel that I am aware of myself for such a woman." The 4th child curled his lips and said, "Don't worry, after completing this order, it won't be easy to play with any woman you want. As long as you have a lot of money, women will take the initiative to get into your arms." At this time, the man in black on the other side said calmly. A ray of moonlight shone into the darkness, and Chu Sichi's little face turned pale. Listening to the words of several people, Chu Sichi also understood that someone specifically wanted to target the Chu family. Now that she was tied to this suburb, Chu Sichi couldn't even think about what would happen next. It is usually as cold as an iceberg that has not melted for thousands of years, but this is the first time I have faced such suffocating darkness. Chu Sichi's head was in a blur now, and she forced herself to calm down and think. Who dares to kidnap him like this, the Zhang family or the Wu family? Both of these families had grievances with the Chu family, and the darkness around them tortured Chu Sichi all the time. She was just a 17-year-old girl. She was usually a high-spirited little princess. She was kidnapped for the first time, and her head couldn't calm down at all. Unknowingly, crystal tears appeared in Chu Sichi's beautiful eyes, and she raised her head and looked up in despair. There was a flaw on the top of her head, perhaps because of the moonlight, which dispelled some darkness around her, and she wanted to look up at the moon. But when she raised her head, Chu Sichi's beautiful eyes widened instantly, and there was a figure lying silently on the iron plate above her head, with only one head exposed. Woo! Chu Sichi was immediately frightened by this horrifying scene, and made a whining sound from her mouth. The voice immediately attracted the attention of several men in black. The leading man in black came over and said in a cruel tone, "Miss Chu, you'd better be honest. We won't do anything to you. We just use money to do things and don't want to hurt you. If you are dishonest, I don't recommend putting a knife in your pretty little face." Hey, this is my favorite thing. The man in black named Lao Si beside him echoed obscenely. Chu Sichi's face turned pale and she nodded hurriedly. What I was thinking about was the head crawling on top of the factory building. But when she thought about it, Chu Sichi found that the head seemed familiar to her, as if she had seen it somewhere before. One more look, just one look, it's not a ghost, it's not a ghost. Chu Sichi comforted herself in her heart. Then she cautiously looked up again, only to see that the head was still there and smiled at her. Chu Sichi gritted her teeth to prevent herself from screaming, and boldly looked at the head, but the more she looked at it, the more familiar it became. The next moment, Chu Siqi suddenly remembered where she had seen this head. Isn't this the same Shen Shucho I saw on the roadside? He was still a classmate of his, and he even asked him for help. Did he find himself tied up? Why didn't he call the police? And wasn't he on the roadside? Why is he here? How did he climb up there? Chu Siqi's mind went blank. A question mark floated over his head. Shen Shucho felt a little funny when he saw Chu Siqi's behavior. Miss Chu, who is usually as cold as frost, actually had this scene. Shen Shucho put a finger to his mouth and moved his lips silently, saying, I'm here to save you, don't make any noise. Regardless of whether Chu Siqi could understand it or not, she would definitely recognize herself now. Unexpectedly, Chu Siqi actually understood the lip language and nodded repeatedly like a chicken pecking at rice. Shen Shucho smiled and immediately disappeared into the night sky. With the appearance of Shen Shucho, Chu Siqi seemed to have taken a reassurance and gradually calmed down. But at this moment, Shen Shucho was all in his mind, thinking about how the other party would save him. Didi. At this moment, the sound of a car horn suddenly sounded outside the factory. The man in black at the head quickly took out his car keys and pressed them. The lights of the Rolls-Royce outside flashed. After a while, ta-ta-ta, there was a sound of footsteps outside, and then a burst of bright light came in. Soon a group of figures walked in behind the bright light, and several burly men in suits surrounded a bald young man who fell into view. The moment she saw the bald young man, Chu Siqi's eyes widened instantly, and anger showed on her pale face. Wu Sihai, the fourth eldest son of the Wu family, Wu Sihai, was actually Wu Sihai who kidnapped him. Why should the Wu family use themselves to negotiate with the Chu family if they kidnap themselves? But for sure, this is passive for the Chu family. Mr. Wu has been kidnapped for you. I don't know the reward. The leading man in black walked up to the bald young man and said flatteringly. Yes, you did a good job. I'm very satisfied with the efficiency. Wu Sihai smiled. It's good that Boss Wu is satisfied, but he doesn't know when the US dollars will be given to the brothers. The brothers are anxious to go hide overseas for a while. They kidnapped the Chu family, and they would definitely not be able to stay in the country any longer. The four of them couldn't bear the Chu family's anger, so they were eager to get the Wu family's reward and go hide overseas for a while. Wait until the storm of this matter has passed and come back. The reward is easy to talk about, just give them a ride. Wu Sihai touched his bald head and gave instructions. Boss Wu, what do you mean? The face of the leader in black changed. 7 men in suits took out dark pistols from their arms and pointed them coldly at them. Boss Wu, you don't mean what you say. The leader in black said angrily. Bang bang bang. Gunshots sounded at this moment, and blood bloomed in the darkness. The figures of 4 men in black suddenly fell to the ground. Wu Sihai spat at the body of the leader of the men in black and sneered, I'll give you a reward, but it's a pity that you will lose your life. Wu. Chu Siqi watched helplessly as the bodies of the 4 people fell in front of her, and the fear in her heart reached its peak. She had been pampered since she was a child, and she didn't even dare to watch a chicken being killed, let alone someone who was alive 1 second and died in front of her the next second. Oh, Miss Chu, how can I be afraid of this? I'm not afraid, I will hurt you when my brother will hurt. Wu Sihai walked up to Chu Si with an evil smile on his face. He reached out a hand and gently touched Chu Siqi's scared face. Wu Sihai did not tear off the bandage on Chu Siqi's mouth, but said sarcastically, tisk tisk. When did the aloof Miss Chu end up like this? After I get that thing from the Chu family, I will make you pregnant again. If we throw it back to the Chu family, we will be a family by then. Chu Siqi stared at Wu Sihai with vicious eyes. Don't look at me like that, or else after I play with you, a few more people will take turns to kill you. Wu Sihai said with a lewd smile. You beast. Suddenly a voice came. Wu Sihai nodded subconsciously, but suddenly realized something was wrong and turned around to look at the people behind him. Who said that just now? Wu Sihai's eyes were unkind. Do you not want to live if you exclude yourself from behind? Report to the boss that we didn't say anything. Several men in suits looked at each other and then said in unison, not the boss we are talking about. Wu Sihai also noticed that something was wrong at this time. He looked around and said, I don't know who is inside, so why not come out? It's no fun to sneak around and be a mouse. Wu Sihai's eyes were fixed on the place where the flashlight could not reach. The next moment, a chuckle came from the darkness. It's hard to say who the mouse is. You secretly kidnapped a high school female classmate at night. You are simply not a human being. Chu Siki's eyes lit up. It was Shen Shuchou's voice. How was he going to save himself? Did he call the police? Wu Sihai frowned and said, "No matter who you are, come out now." Then a young man came out of Wu Sihai's sight. Child. Wu Sihai was stunned. Who did he think he was? The result is, it's a child here, about the same age as Chu Sichi. Let me introduce myself. I am her classmate. Seeing an uneven road, I decided to draw my sword to help. Shen Shuchou showed a harmless smile. Little kid, do you think you're Batman? If you're older, let's learn to be a hero. Why don't you just be a bear? Wu Sihai sneered. He was actually frightened by a high school kid. With scum like you, we really need someone to be a hero, but I prefer to be a hunter in the dark. Shen Shuchou smiled calmly. Where does this madness come from? Remember to go to a mental hospital in your next life. Wu Sihai seemed to have heard the big joke and immediately ordered his men to shoot. The dark muzzle of the gun was instantly pointed at Shen Shuchou. Shen Shuchou's expression remained unchanged. He had never played with a gun before. Boom! Sparks burst out from the black muzzle, and a bullet was shot out quickly. Chu Sichi was so frightened that her face turned pale and she quickly closed her eyes. The next moment, the imagined voice did not appear. When he opened his eyes, he saw several people with shocked faces. The fired bullet was accurately caught by Shen Shuchou and played with in his hand. Practitioner. Wu Sihai's face gradually became serious. How can spiritual cultivation be taught in high school? Spiritual cultivation is something that can only be learned in college. Shoot together. I don't believe how many you can catch. Wu Sihai said with a cold face. Bang bang bang. The 7 men in black quickly followed the instructions, and the bullets rushed towards Shen Shuchou's frail figure like a roaring lion. The next moment, the scene of being penetrated by bullets and spraying blood did not appear. Instead, a scene that shocked them appeared. They saw the bullets staying within 3 steps in front of Shen Shuchou, as if an invisible barrier appeared to block them. It's boring, Shen Shuchou said lightly, not caring that several people were shocked and could put goose eggs in their mouths. The bullets that stayed instantly turned into powder and scattered to the ground, and then the men in suits fell to the ground like a pile of mud. Wu Sihai was immediately frightened by the sight of this mysterious trick, and his face no longer had the arrogant expression it had just now. Wu Sihai fell to the ground in fear, and unconsciously used his fingers to explore the breath of several people, but was horrified to find that several people had no breath at all. All dead, all dead. Great fear instantly filled Wu Sihai's heart. This method may only be possible by practitioners at the Golden Core stage. But the person in front of him just looks like a young man. How could he have such terrifying strength? But now he couldn't allow him to think so much, and his lips trembled. Hero, please spare my life. I can give you money. I have a lot of money. As long as you spare my life, it will all be yours. Quote. The strong desire to survive made him tremble uncontrollably. Do you think I'm a money-hungry person? Shen Shuchou smiled. A bucket of ice water was splashed on Wu Sihai's face. Yes, how could someone with his skills be short of money? Any family you find is like an ancestor. But in fact, Shen Shuchou is really short of money, huh? But he doesn't need money. Wu Sihai immediately thought of something and said quickly, I can give you the right to do whatever you want. The Wu family can give you dozens of times as much as the Chu family gives you. Wu Sihai now thought that this person must be the Chu family secretly protecting Chu Sichi. The offerings in his home said that people from the Chu family were involved, so he would choose to take action, but he didn't know that the ace was actually here. Such a person is so terrifying. He can kill people from a distance. The methods of offering sacrifices solicited by the Wu family are as ridiculous as a child playing house in front of him. What you are saying is indeed very tempting, huh? But I think it would be better for you to die. If Shen Shuchou's first sentence made Wu Sihai feel the hope of life, the second half of it completely plunged him into boundless darkness. The next moment, Wu Sihai felt that the air around him had disappeared, and a strong sense of suffocation hit his face. His eyes were wide open and bloodshot, and his body couldn't stop shaking. Within a few breaths, he completely tilted his head and fell to the side. After doing all this, Shen Shucho came to Chu Sichi. Looking at this normally aloof person, but now he was like a little rabbit hiding in his nest and not daring to come out, he smiled and said, "I'll tell you a few things, and I'll save you if you promise." Chu Sichi nodded quickly with pitiful eyes. Seeing that she agreed, Shen Shucho said, "First, just pretend that I haven't been here tonight. Second, don't tell anyone about me. And third, stay away from me from now on. Also, don't try to use those practitioners of your family to mess with me. I tell you clearly that they can't defeat me. You have also seen my methods. Be careful that one day I will take you away while you are sleeping, strip you naked, and throw you away." "Did you hear it on the street?" Shen Shucho seemed worried and added. Chu Sichi heard that. When he was naked, there was a look of shame and anger on his face. "Don't look at me like that, I'm not interested in your airport." Shen Shucho glanced at that ordinary place. Airport. Chu Sichi was slightly stunned, but looking at Shen Shucho's disgusted eyes, she looked down and instantly understood what he meant by the airport. His expression became even more shameful and angry, and he wanted to jump up and bite him on the spot. Seeing Chu Siki's appearance, Shen Shucho smiled helplessly and then untied the rope and bandage. After doing all this, Shen Shucho was about to leave. Chu Siki's waxy voice came from behind, "That one. Hey, what else do you want to do?" Shen Shucho turned around helplessly. Listening to the other party's disgusting tone, Chu Sichi couldn't help but feel aggrieved. Every man in the class usually looked like he wanted to pursue her when he saw her. "How come you still dislike me?" Chu Sichi also knew that he had saved her, and it was okay to dislike her, but she still said aggrievedly, "I'm afraid, I can't walk anymore." Chu Sichi had been strangled for too long, and there were many blue marks on her body. What's more, there are corpses all around, and she is too scared to be alone here. "Forget it, help people to the end." Shen Shucho comforted himself in his heart. Then he held Chu Sichi in his arms and walked outside. Chu Siki's face turned red as she was held in her arms. She never expected that Shen Shucho would directly pick her up, except when she was hugged by her father when she was a child. No man has ever hugged her in such a long life. Thinking of the way the other man saved her just now, coupled with his warm breath, Chu Sichi was like a kitten and unconsciously hugged her. Her heart was going crazy at this moment. Beat. Shen Shucho ignored Chu Siki's little moves, placed her on the seat of the Rolls-Royce and planned to leave. At this moment, Chu Sichi grabbed the corner of Shen Shucho's clothes with her small hands, as if she didn't want to let him go. "What are you doing? You said you were scared inside, but I brought you out. Don't you need to sleep, miss?" Shen Shucho looked impatient. "I'm still a little scared, would it be nice if you stayed with me more?" Chu Sichi looked at him pitifully, her tone unconsciously a bit coquettish. Okay, you call your home now. I'll wait outside for a while. If you make any noise, I'll leave immediately." Chu Sichi looked so weak that Shen Shucho immediately softened his heart and sat casually on a stone nearby. Chu Siki's face immediately became happy and she quickly called her family. At this moment, he wanted to ask Shen Shucho to come into the car, but he swallowed it when he thought of what the other party just said. He just stayed with her. Chu Sichi was lying on the car window, her little eyes staring at Shen Shucho outside. He didn't know what he was thinking in his heart, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. After a while, lights came on in the distance, and several Land Rovers gradually approached. Chu Sichi quickly turned her head to look, and when she looked back, Shen Shucho's figure outside had disappeared. An expression of disappointment immediately appeared on his face, but he thought of something again, and then a smile appeared. The weather was very hot, and the weather was very hot. Jinjiang District. A luxurious villa was brightly lit. Chu Tianshang looked seriously at the petite figure sitting on the sofa. When he was still in the company, he received a call from his nanny saying that Chu Sichi had not returned home. Chu Tianshang called the driver but the phone was turned off, and he felt something was wrong. Chu Sichi was usually very well behaved. She would basically go home within 10 minutes after school, but today she hadn't returned for several hours and the driver's phone was unreachable. Combined with the thing he had recently obtained, Chu Tianshang realized that someone might have kidnapped Chu Sichi against him. The Chu family had no male heirs, but Chu Sichi was his treasure, and he was a serious daughter slave. He immediately rushed home and called back the worshippers at home, ready to respond at any time. But after a while, Chu Tianshang received a call from his daughter, saying that she was kidnapped in a suburban factory. Chu Tianshang immediately took people to the scene, but found that there was only Chu Tianchi sitting in the car and a corpse on the ground. More importantly, there were people from the Wu family among the corpses, and the driver who was responsible for driving was still in a coma. Although he didn't figure out what the situation was at the scene, fortunately Chu Sichi didn't have any problems. Along the way, he didn't rush to ask what happened, and first comforted the frightened Chu Sichi. After returning home, Chu Sichi stayed on the sofa without saying a word. But it was not a solution to keep doing this. Without knowing what the situation was at the scene, Chu Tianshang couldn't make the next plan. Chu Tianshang came to the sofa lovingly and said softly, "Sichi, tell Dad what happened at that time. The fools of the Wu family will not let them go." When Chu Tianshang thought that the Wu family dared to kidnap his precious daughter, he was furious. Chu Sichi looked at Chu Tianshang's worried expression and felt a little entangled. She promised Shen Shuqiu not to tell anyone about what happened tonight, but the person in front of her was her father after all. As a daughter, there was no reason for her father to worry all the time. Chu Sichi gritted her teeth and decided to tell it, but she changed Shen Shuqiu's appearance into an ugly old man. "Humph, let you dislike me." Chu Tianshang listened carefully. It was fine before, but when he heard that the man killed people in the air, his brows were furrowed. Even the old man who was drinking tea not far behind Chu Tianshang stopped the teacup in his hand and frowned. Chu Sichi noticed Chu Tianshang's expression and suddenly got angry. "Dad, you don't believe me." She saw clearly what Shen Shuqiu did. Telling the truth, Chu Tianshang actually showed an expression of not believing him. "No, Dad doesn't believe you, Sichi, keep talking." Chu Tianshang smiled awkwardly. "I'm going to sleep, I won't say any more." Chu Sichi got up from the sofa and went upstairs holding the teddy bear without looking back. After Chu Sichi left, Chu Tianshang regained his serious expression and turned back and said indifferently, "Mr. Peng, do you think the man Sichi said is true?" Mr. Peng's original name was Peng Ping, and he was a worshipper hired by Chu Tianshang at a high price. Peng Ping took a sip of tea and said calmly, "According to what the eldest lady said, that person killed people from a distance. To be able to do this can only mean that this person's mind is very powerful, and he should be focusing on mind cultivation. However, if he can cultivate his mind to this level, if we don't count his other powers, this person has reached the Jindan stage just by looking at his mind." Jindan stage. When did such a big shot come to Sioux City? Chu Tianshang frowned. Although he is not strong, he still has a concept of the term Jindan. There are only 20 Jindans known and on the list in the whole country. So who is this Jindan who suddenly appeared on the list? Or, this person has just been promoted. This is worth Chu Tianshang's thinking. "Peng, please help me keep an eye on Sioux City recently. If you find this Jindan, please let me know." Chu Tianshang said respectfully. If a Jindan can be won over, the development of the Chu family in Sioux City can be said to be smooth sailing. The Chu family's Peng Ping is only at the Lingji period. Yeah, Peng Ping hummed. He also wanted to meet this Jindan. By the way, arrange a few people to help me pay attention to who Sichi will contact recently. Chu Tianshang added. He smiled slightly in his heart. "Sichi, you can't hide it from Dad." When listening to Chu Siki's story, Chu Tianshang found that this little the girl always pauses intentionally or unintentionally, as if she is making up language. As a daughter who had been raised since childhood, how could she hide her changes from Chu Tianshang? It would be very interesting if this person was really Jin Dan and knew Chu Sichi. Shen Shuqiu returned home and was lying on the bed after washing. He suddenly thought of something about his own cultivation. His own cultivation seemed to have been suppressed. If he had 9 generations of cultivation combined into one, he would at least be at the peak of the Mahayana. But when he started to take action, he realized something was wrong. His cultivation was suppressed at the peak of nascent soul. Is it because Blue Star's way of heaven is incomplete? That's why my cultivation can only be used in the nascent soul stage. If this is the case, it can also explain the reason for the lack of spiritual energy. I don't know when it will be until the earth and heaven in this area are complete. The nascent soul stage is the nascent soul stage. Thinking like this, Shen Shucho fell into a deep sleep. A night of silence. On the second day, Chu Sichi did not come to class all morning, which immediately caused a discussion in the class. Whether he comes or not has nothing to do with Shen Shucho, as long as the other party keeps his mouth shut. Before the first class in the afternoon, Chu Siki's figure walked in from outside the classroom. As soon as she entered the classroom, Chu Sichi looked at Shen Shucho. Seeing that the other party didn't even think about looking at her, she suddenly gave him a sharp look. Shen Shucho, who felt like he was being stared at, looked confused. He complained in his heart, "You are sick. I saved your life and you still glared at me." Chu Sichi sat at the desk and had no intention of talking to Shen Shucho during the entire class, but that was exactly what he thought. After the class ended, Chu Sichi stood up and said expressionlessly, "Come out with me for a moment." After saying this sentence, many eyes in the class were attracted. Who is Goddess Chu called? It seems to be calling Shen Shucho. How is that possible? It seems like it's calling me. Come on, I'll wake you up if I pee yellow. Why are you giving him a taste of sweetness? Others may not know clearly from far away, but Shu Yang, who is at the same table, clearly knows that Chu Sichi is calling Shen Shucho. Shen Shucho said calmly as if he hadn't seen him at this moment, "Shu Yang, why are you still standing there in a daze?" Ah, Shu Yang blinked. Seeing Shen Shucho pretending not to see her, Chu Sichi became even more angry. She gritted her silver teeth and said, "I'm pregnant." Question mark. Shen Shucho looked shocked. He heard something. He almost spit out a mouthful of phlegm. He was pregnant. Is this meant for me? Ahem. That Shu Yang, why are you? Shen Shucho reacted and said quickly, but before he could finish speaking, two voices preceded him. You fart. Shu Yang jumped up anxiously. The child is your Shen Shucho. Chu Sichi pointed at Shen Shucho with her little tiger teeth. The two said in unison, blocking Shen Shucho to death. Shen Shucho turned his head stiffly and looked at Chu Sichi, who looked proud. 10,000 divine beasts were rushing through my heart, and I felt extremely regretful at this moment. Why was he so mean last night? Why did he save such a thing? After saying this, Chu Sichi took the lead to walk out of the classroom with her proud little head raised, like a victorious peacock. Shen Shucho had no choice but to follow. If we don't go out, who knows what shocking things this crazy thing will say. Am I deaf? Goddess Chu is pregnant. The child is Shen Shucho's. What? Shen Shucho is the child of Goddess Chu. After the two left, Class 3 and Class 5 were instantly involved in a verbal storm. Chapter 11. Chu Sichi, are you sick? How can you accuse someone of innocence based on your words? Shen Shucho was completely confused by that shocking statement, I'm pregnant. Chu Sichi looked at Shen Shucho with a tight little face and an aggressive look. What are you going to do? You can't repay your savior like this. Shen Shucho looked helpless. Who knows what's going on with this eldest lady of the Chu family? Now I just want to send him as far away as possible. Chu Sichi pursed her lips and said, what did you mean by what you said last night? Which sentence? Shen Shucho replied weakly. Why are you telling me to stay away from you? Are you afraid that I will get entangled with you? Chu Sichi showed her fierce little tiger teeth and said. Chu Sichi slept very late last night, and her mind was filled with the sight of Shen Shucho descending to earth, and the sense of security he felt holding her in his arms. Just as he was thinking about how to thank Shen Shucho, those three sentences suddenly came to mind. The first two sentences are normal, but the third sentence is far away from him. What does this mean? Is it because you are afraid that you will pester him? The more Chu Sichi thought about it, the angrier she became. Shen Shucho's tall figure instantly collapsed in her heart. Shen Shucho looked confused. Is this the reason why I dare to love you, Miss Chu? Shen Shucho really meant this when he said this, to prevent unnecessary trouble in the future. Who would have thought that your Miss Chu's brain circuit is a little different from others? Whether we are entangled or not, we can't go together. You are the eldest lady of the Chu family in the class, and I am the transparent one in the class. There should be no relationship between us. That night it was just an accident, okay. Shen Shucho found it a little funny. Chu Sichi blinked her eyes and whispered, didn't they fight together? Then break it off. You will be your eldest lady and I will be my little transparent one. Don't bother anyone else. Okay. Shen Shucho said gradually impatiently. After saying that he didn't want to talk to her about anything, he turned around and left. Chu Sichi suddenly looked sad and murmured, "Do you hate me?" Shen Shucho wanted to say he hated you, but when he saw Chu Siki's weeping look, the words on his lips instantly changed to, "It's not that I hate you, you have to keep your personality, okay? In the eyes of outsiders, there is an iceberg goddess inside, your character cannot collapse." Chu Sichi said nothing, and looked directly at Shen Shucho with tearful eyes. Okay, it's okay if you don't hate it. You have to explain it later. Shen Shucho felt a little soft-hearted when she saw him. After hearing the answer she wanted, Chu Siki's eyes seemed to be filled with bright little stars, and her dimples showed happy dimples. After the simple conversation ended, the two walked towards the classroom one after another, but Shen Shucho was still speechless. I felt more and more in my heart that saving her was the wrong thing to do. As soon as he arrived at the door of the classroom, Shen Shucho found someone inside staring at him viciously. Taking a closer look, this person is Luo Hao, who pursues Chu Sichi every day. At this moment, Luo Hao had a gloomy face. As usual, he brought a bouquet of roses to send to Chu Sichi. As soon as he arrived in Class 5, Grade 3, Luo Hao found that everyone was looking at him with a strange look. It seemed like he was gloating about his misfortune, but also like he was pitiful. There was no Chu Sichi on the viewing seat. At this moment, someone next to him told him the process, which almost made Luo Hao dizzy. It was as if someone else had taken advantage of the wife he had worked so hard to marry before he could taste it. At this moment, Luo Hao was his first wife trying to catch a third party. When he saw Chu Sichi coming back together, the anger in his eyes could no longer be suppressed. "Sichi, what is your relationship with him?" Luo Hao stepped forward and asked. "What is my relationship with him? Does it have anything to do with you? I already told you not to call me Sichi. I'm not familiar with you. Please give way. Thank you." At this moment, Chu Sichi returned to the appearance of the iceberg goddess in front of everyone. There seems to be an invisible cold air surrounding the whole body, making it difficult to move. "Sichi, I've been chasing you for so long and you haven't agreed. Now you're with this kid. Sichi, tell me it's all a lie." Luo Hao looked reluctant, with a trace of prayer in his eyes. "What do I have to do with you? Besides, I'm really not familiar with you. Please don't bother me in the future." Chu Sichi said coldly. Every sentence stabbed into Luo Hao's heart like a knife. But what Chu Sichi said was true. She treated everyone like this from beginning to end. There are friends who don't know anyone well. I don't believe it. Sichi, you actually have feelings for me, right? Luo Hao leaned forward and reached out to catch Chu Sichi. Chu Sichi subconsciously got behind Shen Shucho because it could bring her a sense of peace of mind. The image of Shen Shucho saving her last night has been deeply engraved in her heart. Seeing this scene, Luo Hao was even more furious, and his hands still grabbed him reluctantly. Shen Shucho frowned and stretched out his hand to intercept Luo Hao's movements. Shen Shucho's action instantly made Luo Hao furious. "This kid, I haven't even settled a score with you yet you dare to stop me." He immediately said with fierce eyes, "What's your name, kid?" Shen Shucho looked calm. "Shen Shucho. Okay, boy, I remember you." There was a hint of threat in Luo Hao's sinister eyes. After saying that, he tried hard to pull out his hand. The next moment, Luo Hao's body suddenly staggered under the strong force, and he almost lost his footing. Shen Shucho's body remained motionless on the spot. Luo Hao felt as if his hand was tightly locked by an iron pliers, and no matter how hard he tried, he could not break free. This immediately made Luo Hao shocked and angry. What surprised me was how skinny this kid looked. He didn't expect that the power in his hands was so great. Luo Hao's strength test result reached a good 180, which was something he was proud of, far exceeding some ordinary people. Now in front of this kid, it's difficult to even pull out my hand. Hee. Someone in the class let out a vague laugh. This made Luo Hao, who was already furious, even more embarrassed at this moment. Shen Shucho felt a little bored, immediately let go of his hand, and returned to his seat without looking back. Chu Siqi had a cold face and followed him without even looking at him. Under the ridicule from the class, Luo Hao fled here like a defeated dog. After Luo Hao left, whispers began to ring around Chu Siqi and Shen Shuqiu again in the class. Xu Yang was staring at Shen Shuqiu like a monster at this moment, as if he wanted to see the flowers on his angular face. Shen Shuqiu knew that his deskmate was not holding anything back, so he simply looked at the scenery outside the window without any intention of talking to him. But after a while, Xu Yang couldn't hold it in any longer. He said in an adoring tone, "Brother Shen, it's you who got the school belle of Chu pregnant without saying a word. You are so awesome." He couldn't help but remember that he comforted Brother Shen 2 days ago and said that he could not pursue a woman like Chu Siqi. As a result, Brother Shen was holding back and giving himself a blow as big as a nuclear bomb. Shen Shuqiu pretended not to hear and said nothing. Chu Siqi felt quite complicated at the moment. Listening to the voices of the classmates around her, she also felt that she was joking a little too loudly. Ahem. The noisy voices in the class fell silent with a cough. Lao Wang's figure walked into the class and looked at everyone and said, "Let's test our strength today. Next time we will come first one by one." Everyone in the class was immediately happy and worried. Then under Lao Wang's arrangement, everyone went up one after another. The passing number for the strength test is 150. Chen Nan passed 155. Tongfang 145 failed. Soon, 53 people in the class completed the strength test, and a total of 39 people passed the test. Compared with spiritual affinity, the strength test was simpler. To everyone's surprise, the first place in the strength test was Shen Shuqiu, with a score of 190. This is an astonishing number, but when everyone thinks that he can even get the beauty of Chu school pregnant, they feel that there is something unreasonable. In fact, Shen Shuqiu didn't want this first place. He already controlled his power very well. He didn't expect them to be so weak. Chu Siqi's power stayed at 160, but Xu Yang passed 165. In a blink of an eye, time came to night. Throughout the afternoon, Shen Shuqiu felt many hostile looks in the class, although Chu Siqi finally explained that it was a joke. It doesn't matter whether everyone believes it or not. This became a turmoil for a period of time. After school, Chu Siqi secretly slipped him a note with a series of 7-digit numbers on it. Shen Shuqiu knew that this was Chu Siqi's penguin number, but he didn't intend to add it. He casually kneaded it into a ball and threw it into the sewer on the roadside. It would be better to stay away from this woman in the future. When passing through another alley, 5 gangsters with sticks walked out and blocked Shen Shuqiu's path. "Boy, don't ask who I am, I want you to have a broken leg." The leader is a young man with yellow hair. There was an iron ring hanging on his nose, staring at Shen Shuqiu with malicious intent. Shen Shuqiu smiled helplessly. Luo Hao must have found these people to block him. Huang Mao felt that he was being looked down upon, and said angrily, "Boy, you are still laughing, are you looking down on us?" Immediately, he led several people and beat him with sticks in his hands. After a breath, several people were lying on the ground writhing and wailing. Huang Mao looked at Shen Shuqiu's leaving figure with horrified eyes. The two of them were so beautiful that they could not wait for the next moment. In the vast and boundless tide of the Milky Way, 2 figures of unparalleled elegance shuttled through a void wormhole one after the other, with countless meteorite fragments floating around them. "Are you sure you can find my master this way?" Qin Hongyi's beautiful eyes were cold and fierce. This month, she left Xuanming continent with this woman who was shrouded in colorful rays of light. After breaking through the barrier of the heavenly Tao, she has been wandering in this void channel, and from time to time, she has to guard against the risk of being involved in the surging space storms around her. If Qin Hongyi was not at the great emperor level and had powerful means, she would have been annihilated by the meteorite fragments around her. Don't worry, as long as you search one world at a time, you will always find your master. Sister Hongyi, you must believe what your sister says. The charming voice of a woman came from the colorful rays of light. Qin Hongyi's eyes were cold, and her body was as cold as a prison. The cold fragrance in her hand burst out a sword energy that was enough to tear the world apart and slashed at the woman in front. This terrifying sword energy was easily dissolved by the rays of light surrounding the hazy woman in an instant. The collision between the two instantly caused the wormhole in the void to vibrate, and the meteorite fragments floating around were turned into countless powder. A strong suction force pulled the two, but fortunately, the two were strong enough, and this suction force did not cause any harm to them. Hee, Sister Hongyi is so irritable, I don't know how your master can bear it. There was a hint of sarcasm in the charming tone of the hazy woman. Qin Hongyi was gloomy as an abyss. After searching for a month, he had an incomparable disgust for her in his heart, and he wanted to kill the woman in front with a sword. The two of them tried together for no less than 100 times, and came to a conclusion that no one could do anything to the other. At the same time, Qin Hongyi also became suspicious of the identity of this person. She did not reveal her purpose, but only said that she could help her find her master. Qin Hongyi always had a guess in her heart that this person must have something to do with her master. After a while, the two landed on a planet. The pressure of the great emperor realm descended, and the way of heaven in this world was trembling and turbulent. In an instant, the whole world was filled with the breath of destruction. It seems that there is no trace of your master in this small world. Let's go to the next world. The woman in the colorful glow shook her head. The starry eyes hidden in the glow saw that Qin Hongyi had no intention of leaving, but instead stared at her coldly. What? Sister in red still wants to fight me. You should know that if we fight here at our level, this small world will become nothingness in an instant, and many lives will be annihilated. Sister in red is indeed a person in the magic way, she is really cold and ruthless. A smiling voice sounded in the colorful clouds. Who are you? You dare not show your true face to others. What is your relationship with my master? I must know today, otherwise I will fight you even if I risk my life, and see who is stronger and who is weaker. Qin Hongyi's eyes were cold, and a storm of sword intent gathered around her body invisibly, and the inscription of the great Tao covered the cold fragrance. The woman in the colorful glow was silent for a moment, then spoke, but her voice was no longer charming, but cold and eerie. Hey, what is the relationship between me and the master? Do I need to tell you, a heartless and heartless person who killed the master? If you really want to fight with me, this girl will accompany you, just in time to avenge the master and kill you. The hazy woman was surrounded by a bright glow, surrounded by countless stars, each of which contained endless power. Qin Hongyi was abnormally silent. Although the hazy woman did not accurately tell her the relationship between her and her master, she could guess it from the word, master. Killing the master was a pain in Qin Hongyi's heart, and she did not choose to refute it at this moment. The two of them were on the verge of a fight, and several cracks appeared on the heavenly way here, which could be broken down at any time in this terrifying pressure. Not far from the horizon, a light spot suddenly appeared and flew towards this side very quickly. Qin Hongyi and the other two also sensed someone approaching, but the aura was very weak, only at the spiritualization stage. After a few breaths, a white-haired old man appeared not far from the two. The old man felt the two terrifying figures in front of him, and he was like an ant crawling on the ground with fear in his heart. I wonder if the two emperors came here to find a man. The gleam of light flashed in the hazy woman's starry eyes, and the rosy glow instantly enveloped the old man's figure. Tell me everything you know. The old man felt the terrifying power from the rosy glow that enveloped him, which was enough to kill him in an instant, including his past and present lives. The old man. The dry throat squeezed out the words. 3 years ago, 2 different women came to this world one after another to look for a man, so I dared to ask the 2 emperors. Hearing this, the charming voice of the woman in the colorful clouds came out. Red sister, it seems that we should speed up, otherwise the young master will be found by other fools' bitches, and it will be too late to regret it then. After that, the hazy woman dragged the rainbow tail of the clouds and quickly left this world. Qin Hongyi retracted his sword intent and followed closely, slightly stunned in his heart. There are other women. What other identities does the master have? No matter what identity, the master can only be his own, whoever stops him will die. At worst, take the master and lock him up again. Qin Hongyi's mind changed rapidly. After the two left, the old man let out a sigh of relief. What kind of man is it that can attract 4 emperors to look for him? How many emperors can be born in the entire galaxy? 4 emperors appeared in just 3 years, all for the sake of finding a man. This is the biggest doubt of the old man's life. Time passed quickly on Blue Star. In the blink of an eye, it was 3 days before the college entrance examination. However, on this day, everyone received a message. Sioux City issued an emergency notice to close the city for 7 days. During this period, citizens were not allowed to go out. Once found, they would be severely punished. At this moment, the class group was crazy because of this matter. Chen Nan, I heard that a monster seems to have sneaked into Sioux City. Fang Yu, is this true? Don't lie to me. Chen Nan, why would I lie to you? I have a distant cousin who works in the Mingyu Bureau. He personally notified me that it is best not to go out within this week. Xu Yang, is it the Mingyu Bureau that specializes in dealing with monsters? Chen Nan, who else could it be besides this? Lu Bin, what Chen Nan said is right. It is said that the monster was released by some shady organization this time. Everyone should not go out, because those who go out now are either from the Mingyu Bureau or some organizations, and people will die. Shen Shucho looked at the crazy messages in the class group and sighed helplessly. I just want to live an ordinary life, why are there so many troubles? With the appearance of the monster, Sioux City will definitely be involved in a bloody battle. In the Mingyu Bureau, which has the highest level in Sioux City, a tall woman in tights and combat uniforms came to the communication and said in long boots, have all the messages been sent out? Soon a male voice came from the communication. The team leader has sent it out. Okay, all the personnel dispatched use detectors to search for the traces of monsters in all directions, and check the camp of the Tianluo organization in Sioux City for me. I will not let these fools get out. Yes. In addition, in the endless dark void, a strange black fog appeared above the blue star, and there was a black lightning turbulence in it. Yes, it's here. I smell the scent of Mr. It smells so good. I want to have Mr. right away. Hee hee. The voice came from the black lightning, and a black graceful figure fell rapidly. Shen Shucho looked at the heavy rain outside the window, and a bad premonition came in his heart. He smelled a fatal danger and a familiar smell. In a luxurious villa, Chu Sichi wore a pink bear and lay on the bed, swaying back and forth with her 2 little feet intertwined. Holding the latest mobile phone in his hand, he stared at the chat box in a daze. The ones on the right are all messages that no one has responded to. Shen Shucho, what are you doing? Why do you ignore me? Shen Shucho, are you asleep? Seeing that no news came back, he pouted and yelled, Shen Shucho actually ignores me. It's so abominable. I'll beat you to death. He casually picked up the bear doll beside him and hit it with 2 pink punches. The bear also had the 3 characters Shen Shucho written on it. On the other side, Shen Shucho was completely unaware of this. Wearing a black trench coat, he wandered in the night sky and rain. The sharp raindrops around him were perfectly avoided by Shen Shucho, and even the puddles under his feet moved to both sides. After 9 lives of running around, Shen Shucho, who returned to Blue Star, just wanted to have a peaceful life. He couldn't tolerate the appearance of monsters in Sioux City. He expected the people from the Mingyu Bureau to take action in person. After all, it would be faster to find monsters on his own than they did. Shen Shucho followed the induction in his spiritual mind and shuttled through the rain curtain. In addition, vehicles with the unique logo of the Mingyu Bureau are also looking for traces of monsters in the dark night. The captain discovered it. A red dot appeared at 120 degrees in the southeast direction and was 2 kilometers away. A young man in the co-pilot said excitedly as he looked at the red dot that appeared on the detector in his hand. The woman in the tight-fitting combat uniform in the back seat said in a cold voice, "Go quickly, if you are slow for a second, someone may be killed by the monster." Ah! A piercing scream came from the darkness ahead. Shen Shucho's expression condensed, and his figure disappeared instantly. Xiaomiao looked at the tall monster with a dog's head in front of her. She was so frightened that she turned pale and fell to the ground. The contents of her handbag were scattered on the ground. She goes out to buy medicine for her mother at night. This road is the only way for her to buy medicine. Fortunately, there was nothing here when I came, but when I returned, I found that there seemed to be a tall shadow squatting on the ground in front of me. Since it was raining heavily at night, the street lights on both sides were dim under the influence of the heavy rain. Although Xiaomiao was a little scared, it was too far to take a detour, and the dampness in the air made her want to return home as soon as possible. So he bravely walked over from the other side of the road. When he got closer, Xiaomiao finally saw clearly what it was. A tall creature covered with hair was munching something with its head lowered, and blood was flowing down. At this moment, the creature seemed to notice someone behind it, and turned its head to reveal a pair of bloody eyes. Xiaomiao also saw the monster's full appearance. It turned out to be a monster with a dog's head. It was holding a corpse in its arms. It was still chewing in its mouth, and blood was flowing down its side. Xiaomiao didn't go to see the news in the group, and she didn't know that monsters had been released into Sushi. But it was too late to know at this time. The 2-meter-tall dog-headed monster was approaching Xiaomiao step by step, with greed for blood in its eyes. At this moment, her legs were not obeying her control and went limp. Seeing that she was about to become blood food, Xiaomiao closed her eyes in despair. Hey, eating me is no more interesting than eating a little girl. At this moment, a voice fell through the rain curtain into the ears of one person and one beast. They all looked back and saw a black figure standing not far away with his hands in his pockets. Under the influence of the rain, Xiaomiao couldn't see clearly the appearance of the black figure, but she vaguely felt that the voice sounded familiar, as if she had heard it somewhere. The dog-headed monster stared at the figure not far away warily. The monster's instinct tells it that this person is in danger. For a moment, the two of them were in a stalemate under the rain in the night sky. Hey, hey, hey. Stop looking, it's you, come here quickly. I'm in a hurry. Shen Shucho stretched out a hand and hooked it. The dog-headed monster was instantly furious. This human dared to tease him. In an instant, he even abandoned the vigilance in his heart and rushed over with a roar. Xiaomiao was relieved when she saw the monster leaving her, but she didn't leave immediately. Instead, she was nervously worried about the black figure. How is he going to deal with this monster? I saw the strong figure of the dog-headed monster leaping high, its sharp claws shining with cold light rushing toward Shen Shucho. Xiaomiao closed her eyes subconsciously. Boom! The next moment, a huge roar exploded in the rain. Xiaomiao quickly opened her eyes and saw an incredible scene. He was so vicious just now. The evil dog-headed monster was lying on the ground in a miserable state. The terrifying force directly smashed a pit into the ground beneath his feet, with cracks extending in all directions. The dog-headed monster climbed up from the pit in disgrace, its fiery red lantern-like eyes revealing fear. Even if it is not very intelligent, it can still realize at this moment that the person in front of it is not something it can deal with. Before it even touched the opponent, an invisible giant hand grabbed its throat and slammed it to the ground. Several bones that were as strong as monster beasts were smashed by huge force at this time. Why are you so ugly? It's just that you are ugly. Why do you come out at night to scare people? The voice of a black figure not far away sounded faintly. The dog-headed monster ignored the figure's taunts and the instinctive reaction of the creature, so it ran away from this place. Seeing that it was about to run away, Shen Shucho slowly stretched out his 5 fingers. An invisible gravity field appeared around the dog-headed monster, just as he was about to give it a fatal blow. But he found that the body of the escaped dog-headed monster was shaking violently, and a purple light flashed in his bloody eyes. The fear disappeared, replaced by violent evil intent. The next second, he rushed towards Shen Shucho at a terrifying speed. Something is wrong. Shen Shucho frowned. The changes in the dog-headed monster just now did not escape his eyes. That flash of purple light was a bit familiar to Shen Shucho. With the 5 outstretched fingers clenched into a fist, the dog-headed monster was instantly squeezed into a blood mist by the terrifying force of the gravity field, leaving only one dog head intact and rolling to the side. Shen Shen looked around and found a purple crescent symbol deep between the dog's eyebrows. Seeing the crescent moon symbol, Shen Shucho also remembered why he was familiar with it. In the 4th life, there was a cult that could control monsters through secret methods, and the symbol was exactly the same. But how could there be such a cult on Blue Star? This crescent moon symbol is still shining with a strange purple halo, seeming to be connected with this monster. Discovering this, Shen Shucho controlled his spiritual thoughts to attack. There is a spiritual thought technique that can build a bridge through this connection and spy on the other party of the connection. And Shen Shucho happened to be able to do it. The moment his spiritual mind touched the crescent moon symbol, an invisible bridge appeared in his mind. In an instant, the other party's location was revealed. Knowing the opponent's position, Shen Shucho's figure disappeared under the cover of the rain curtain. In an unfinished building in Sioux City, there were several people in black robes gathered together. Among them, there was an old man in black robes sitting on the ground. Suddenly, the old man opened his eyes and a mouthful of blood spurted out. "Elder, are you okay?" A man in black robe looked surprised and quickly stepped forward to help him. "Quick, go, quick." The old man in black robe pushed away the person who was supporting him, his expression flustered as if he was worried about something. The other people in black robes were all confused. "What's wrong, Elder?" "But our ceremony is not completed yet." The next moment, the old man seemed to have seen something, and fear filled his entire face. The others looked out the window and saw a figure standing in the rain. The dead body was buried, and the dead body was buried. Who did this? Sioux man looked at the monster meat on the ground in astonishment. The only intact thing was the basketball-sized dog head. There was also a high school girl at the scene. At this time, a male team member came over and said, "According to the test, this is at least a monster in the late stage of foundation building." Sioux man's face condensed. The harm caused by a monster in the late stage of foundation building in Sioux City is still not small. But who killed such a monster in the late stage of foundation building? With the 5 of them in the car, it is not difficult to kill this monster, but it will not be easy. From the bloody scene at the scene, this late foundation building monster was killed in a crushing manner. This person must be above the foundation building stage to be able to kill the monster with such violent means without the ability to fight back. When did Sioux City hide such a person? Call the nearby surveillance. I want to know who this person is. Sioux man ordered. It is not known whether such a person hiding in Sioux City is good or bad. Since he has the ability to kill monsters, it does not completely mean that this person will abide by the law and not do something that violates the rules. You said the name of the organization you belong to is Tianluo. Shen Shucho crossed his legs and looked at the group of kneeling black-robed people in front of him. Yes, we serve the Tianluo organization. The old man in black robe swallowed his saliva and said carefully. When he was controlling the monster, he suddenly realized that someone locked their location through the crescent mark. This immediately shocked the old man in black robe. There are only a handful of people in the country who can do this. So he cut off the control of the monster at the first time, regardless of the backlash, just wanted to leave this place quickly, but it was still a step too late. The black-robed old man did not feel a trace of spiritual power from the person in front of him. This can often only explain 2 situations. The first is that this person has no cultivation at all. The second is that this cultivation is so high that he can't detect it. Obviously, the person in front of him is the latter situation, which is why the old man is so scared. Such a person wants to kill him, just move his fingers at will. When did such a person exist in the Mingyu Bureau? The old man immediately put Shen Shuchu's identity in the Mingyu Bureau. Why do you have the ability to control monsters? The Tianluo group that Shen Shucho learned from the old man was different from the name of the cult in his impression. The cult he met in the 4th life was the Black Nether cult. But the marks established by the 2 to control monsters are the same. I'm not very clear about this either. This is a secret method passed down by the superiors. I really don't know it very well. The old man said. Shen Shucho frowned. You are an elder, how come you don't know anything? Hearing this, the black-robed old man lowered his head in fear. The superiors gave me this, and we usually communicate by phone. The style of doing things is also very similar to the Black Nether religion. Could it be that the Luotian organization is a branch of the Black Nether religion? How could these 2 different planes of the world be connected? In the 4th life, Shen Shucho had killed many people from the Black Nether religion and even removed many strongholds. But this group of things is too difficult to deal with. You never know where their real strongholds are. The means are also insidious and vicious. Not only can they control monsters to harm the world, but they can also drive the thoughts of other people. It can be said that this is the sect that Shen Shucho hates the most. At present, the Luotian organization is so similar to the Black Nether religion, and some bold guesses are inevitable in his heart. So what is your purpose in coming to Sioux City? Shen Shucho said directly. If you tell me, can you give me a life? The old man said cautiously. Shen Shucho smiled slightly when he heard this. You are not qualified to bargain with me. If you tell me, you may not die, but if you don't tell me, you will definitely die. And I have other ways to know, but the process is a bit cruel to you. Soul search is an evil method. Shen Shucho usually won't use it unless it is absolutely necessary. Soul search can easily backfire. The old man shuddered in his heart and said quickly, according to the instructions from above, we are only responsible for controlling the monsters in the city to cause riots and involve the Mingyu Bureau. I don't know anything else, but I guess the people above Tianluo want to take advantage of the opportunity to invade the Mingyu Bureau and steal something. The old man immediately told everything he knew. Shen Shucho asked, how many people are you in total? There are at least 5 teams like ours, and the number of monsters is. There are 20 heads, including 5 in the Shantian stage, 10 in the Foundation stage, 3 in the Spirit Silence stage, and 2 in the Tribulation Pill stage. Quote. The old man answered truthfully. This is really a demon tide with considerable combat power. Shen Shucho raised his eyebrows. Such a group of monster beasts appeared in Sioux City. It seemed that the plot of the Tianluo organization was very important. I just don't know if Mingyu Bureau can withstand it. The monsters in the Tribulation Pill stage are not considered powerful characters in the other 9 lives. But it is already very powerful when placed on Blue Star, which lacks spiritual energy. Through these words, Shen Shucho also knew that there were Golden Elixir stage monks on Blue Star, but he didn't know if there was a nascent soul stage. Do you know the other people's strongholds? Shen Shucho asked. If there is an accurate stronghold, he alone can prevent this disaster from happening in the cradle in advance. The old man replied, we don't know each other's strongholds. Apart from the contact with the boss, we have no contact with other people. Even if we meet, no one knows each other. There was no lie in the expression of the old man in black robe, so Shen Shucho said calmly, then leave. The old man suddenly looked shocked and said, you really let me go? But you can only leave alone. Shen Shucho said calmly. Thank you, I'll leave immediately. The old man immediately got up from the ground and ran towards the exit without looking back. Elder, save me. Do not kill me. The other men in black robes behind them became panicked. Ignoring the other black-robed men's pleas for mercy, Shen Shucho executed them casually. As for the old man in black robe who was let go, he had already been imprinted by Shen Shucho. Maybe we can use this to investigate other Tianluo strongholds. Even if he runs away, Shen Shucho can crush the mark at any time and he will definitely die. After finishing everything here, Shen Shucho disappeared into the unfinished building. It's already 12:30 p.m. The class group is still chatting in full swing. The topic revolved around Xiao Miao. Xiao Miao, who survived the catastrophe, brought the matter to the class group as soon as she returned home. It immediately aroused heated discussion among everyone, and even the fish that usually dived jumped out. Chu Sichi had not waited for news about Shen Shucho, but she accidentally discovered that the class group seemed to be chatting about something. Chu Sichi usually doesn't chat in the group. If she hadn't been unable to leave the group, she would have left long ago. She is also an administrator in this group. Seeing the monster incident discussed in the group, Chu Sichi curiously scrolled up the news and immediately understood the process of the matter. When she saw Xiao Miao saying that she was saved by a man in black, for some reason Chu Sichi thought of the scene where she was saved by Shen Shucho that night. And the unprecedented sense of security in his arms. The heavy rain in the night sky gradually turned into a light drizzle. Shen Shucho also returned home, and when he turned the key, he opened the door. Before he stepped into the room, Shen Shucho stumbled, and a warm body suddenly entered his arms. Sir, you are back. The warm orchid breath reached my ears. Immediately afterwards, Shen Shucho's eyes widened and his mouth was blocked. The towering mountains clung to Shen Shucho's chest. Shen Shucho's mind went blank, and he subconsciously wanted to break away, but was surprised to find that he couldn't. Although his cultivation on Blue Star was suppressed to the nascent soul stage, he was not in such a miserable state now. Who is this person? Her strength is superior to mine. Shen Shucho used his remaining ideas to turn his thoughts. Then Shen Shucho discovered that there seemed to be something restless in those red lips, like a smooth little snake that was restlessly prying its teeth. Oh shit, why is this scene so familiar? Shen Shucho was like a toy, being rubbed and abused. Etc. No way. A shocking guess emerged in Shen Shucho's heart. After a long time, the lips were parted, and a crystalline silk thread appeared. Only then did Shen Shucho have time to see the person in front of him clearly. The girl has a face with peach cheeks and apricot cheeks. Her charming oval face is filled with joy, with cute little dimples on both sides. 3,000 blue hairs are floating in the wind, and a pair of beautiful apricot blossom eyes are decorated with long eyelashes, which look like two crystal grapes narrowed into a slit in pleasure. It can be seen that she is very happy at the moment. Shen Shucho's eyes were horrified, his throat was dry and he slowly uttered 3 words, Zhang Qianqiu. The final female protagonist and villain in Zhang Qianqiu's first life. The true king of disaster, the daughter of the curse, the natural disaster demon emperor, etc. are all synonymous with her. At the same time, in Shen Shucho's mind, Zhang Qianqiu is also the most inhuman heroine villain. Use the entire world as a melting pot and sacrifice blood to become the emperor. But why did Zhang Qianqiu in the first life appear here? Hasn't your mission been completed? Looking at the smiling Zhang Qianqiu in front of him, Shen Shucho shuddered in his heart. Only he knew how much evil was hidden under this seemingly cute appearance. Why, sir, aren't you happy to see me? Zhang Qianqiu squinted her crescent eyes and muttered sweetly into Shen Shucho's ear. No, Shen Shucho felt the body fragrance of the girl and stammered. Student, I have always missed my husband very much. Boom, the next moment, Shen Shucho's body was pushed down on the sofa. Zhang Qianqiu took advantage of the opportunity to ride on her, and her lips touched her again without any explanation. Shen Shucho couldn't resist at all. His cultivation was suppressed to death, like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, letting his wool be plucked. Zhang Qianqiu's lustful eyes seemed to be dripping with water, and his flexible tongue kept licking on his lips, as if he was tasting a piece of pastry. The flexible tongue gently slid into the mouth, sucking every soft place, intertwining with each other for sticky saliva, and love erupted like a volcano. Shen Shucho kept resisting, but to no avail. The intense kiss almost suffocated him. After a while, Zhang Qianqiu loosened her red lips without feeling satisfied, and gently licked the remaining silk thread on her lips. Stop, stop, Shen Shucho said quickly. If she doesn't stop her, who knows what she's going to do next? Haha, don't you enjoy it, sir? Zhang Qianqiu smiled foolishly. Shui's cheeks were unusually flushed, and the desire in her eyes was surging. Then Zhang Qianqiu's hands became dishonest again, fiddling with Shen Shucho's clothes. He couldn't help but murmured, why don't these clothes have buttons? Shen Shucho's windbreaker was a zippered one, so Zhang Qianqiu couldn't unzip it unless he was from Blue Star. Zhang Qianqiu, I'm angry, get off of me now. Shen Shucho took a deep breath and couldn't help but show the majesty he had in his first life. Unexpectedly, this trick seemed to have no effect. Zhang Qianqiu exhaled and said, Qianqiu is no longer the little girl who didn't understand anything at that time. What if the husband runs away again? Shen Shucho didn't speak, and looked at her quietly with a calm expression. Okay, Qianqiu just goes down. After looking at each other for a moment, Zhang Qianqiu stuck out his tongue and was defeated. Who said this was the husband she longed for? How could Zhang Qianqiu really bear to see her husband angry because of her? If someone else makes her husband unhappy, Zhang Qianqiu will definitely crush that person to ashes, and there will be no peace in his past life, this life, or even the reincarnation. After getting up, Shen Shucho took out the frozen milk from the refrigerator and took a sip of it to relieve the hot mood. Then he went into the bathroom and rinsed his face with cold water several times. Zhang Qianqiu's beautiful apricot eyes seemed to be filled with pink hearts, and she kept staring at Shen Shucho from beginning to end. After a while, Shen Shucho gradually calmed down, looked at the girl and said, why are you here? Sir, don't you want Qianqiu to appear here? Zhang Qianqiu said quietly. No, I'm just curious as to why you appear here. Shen Shucho hesitated, but still didn't say what was in his heart. Zhang Qianqiu seemed to know what his husband was thinking and didn't care. He said with a slightly resentful expression, Sir, you are really cruel. He faked his death in front of everyone in the world, leaving Qianqiu alone in the world. Zhang Qianqiu paused, then narrowed his eyes and said with his red lips close to his ear, But sir, you can't run away, the smell of you will always be in Qianqiu's heart. Qianqiu has been looking for Mr. for 1,000 years. This time, Mr., you can't escape no matter what, hee. Finally, Shen Shucho died to further stimulate Zhang Qianqiu. Only in this way can Zhang Qianqiu's hatred for the people of the world be aroused, and finally the magic power can be achieved to sacrifice the flesh and blood of the people of the world to achieve the throne. Since you raised me, sir, why did you abandon Qianqiu in the end? Sir, I wonder if you still remember the heavy snowfall when we first met. Shen Shucho's eyes darkened. A flood of memories suddenly came flooding back. Tianwu Junshi 33 years. A sudden heavy snow almost flooded the entire continent. This ice and snow, which was like a natural disaster, made everything depressed and countless lives became frozen. Many casual cultivators could not survive the ice and snow and became stiff, let alone some ordinary people. There is a small house made of thatch branches on the side of a village street. The roof was covered with thick ice and snow, and it seemed that it would collapse in the next second. Shen Shucho gently pushed the broken door, and Zhang Qianqiu's small figure was huddled inside. Zhang Qianqiu was sleeping at this time, her little body was shivering from the cold, and many parts of her body had turned stiff and purple. According to the system prompts, Shen Shucho learned about Zhang Qianqiu's background. Zhang Qianqiu was born in a place called Zhangjia village. From the day she was born, her biological mother died on the spot because of her. From then on, Yang's father raised her, but when Zhang Qianqiu was just 1 year old, Yang's father accidentally fell on a cliff and her body was not found. At this time, some rumors circulated in the village, saying that Zhang Qianqiu was born to be physically disabled, and that his father and mother were disabled. Little Zhang Qianqiu, who was only 1 year old, could not understand this, but later her uncle adopted her. In the next 3 years, a large number of bandits and Japanese pirates appeared in the surrounding area. They often came to the village to kill, and rob. The uncle who adopted her was also killed by a bandit in a fight. Even many people in the village died at the hands of bandits, and the entire Zhangjia village's population was reduced by half in an instant. But later these bandits were wiped out by officers and soldiers passing by. Later, Zhang Jiaqun attributed all this bad luck to the young Zhang Qianqiu. Some villagers even threatened to burn her to death. Later, the kind-hearted village chief stopped this behavior but still drove Zhang Qianqiu out of the village. Since then, Xiao Zhang Qianqiu has been working as a beggar, and he usually competes with other beggars in the town for food. Zhang Qianqiu was young and could not rob the older beggar, so he was reduced to fighting with the dog for food. Even the thatched huts we live in now were built by travelers to enjoy the shade. This kind of life enveloped Zhang Qianqiu deeply like bad news. It lasted for a full year before Shen Shucho began his mission. Shen Shucho still remembered the first time Zhang Qianqiu saw him, his eyes full of vigilance and fear. Shen Shucho looked at Zhang Qianqiu, who was curled up with distress, and said softly, "Do you want to come with me? I will support you from now on." This is the first time Shen Shucho and Zhang Qianqiu meet. That year, Zhang Qianqiu was 5 years old. "So, why did you, sir, raise Qianqiu and then abandon Qianqiu in the end?" Zhang Qianqiu's words struck again, pulling Shen Shucho back to reality from the tide of memories. Looking at Zhang Qianqiu, who was already filled with tears at some point, Shen Shucho felt a throbbing pain in his heart. How is he going to tell this? The truth is even more like a sharp knife. Although it has not been drawn out of its sheath, it is bleeding and sealed in the throat. Shen Shucho smiled bitterly and said, "Qianqiu, it doesn't matter. If you don't tell me, there must be a reason why you don't tell me. Qianqiu won't ask, but now that Qianqiu is here, you can't run away, but the way of heaven in this world is quite interesting." Zhang Qianqiu wiped away his tears and restored his smile. "Road. What do you mean by this?" Shen Shucho was startled. "Although this side of the world's heavenly Tao is not complete, I can feel that it is recovering, and this side of the heavenly Tao can actually suppress me and exclude me. It is estimated that I will leave first in a short time. Sir, don't you think this is interesting? After the heavenly way of this world is restored, it will definitely become a powerful star in the vast world." Zhang Qianqiu said in a surprised tone. "Are you rejected by heaven again?" Shen Shucho was a little confused. But he was not rejected by heaven. Is it because he is from this world and Zhang Qianqiu is rejected as someone from another world? But this is also a good thing. Zhang Qianqiu is a time bomb on Blue Star, with the danger of exploding at any time, and he can't keep looking at her. Qiancho knows what your husband is thinking. If he runs away again, Qiancho will kill everyone here, and then tie him to a small world that no one cares about. He will stay with Qiancho for the rest of his life. You know this, sir. Qiancho has this ability. Zhang Qiancho's eyes were dark, and his smiling tone revealed a hint of cold murderous intent. Zhang Qiancho left. Shen Shuqiu was sitting in the living room, thinking a lot. He never expected that Zhang Qiancho would follow the world to find him. Isn't the task completed? These heroines have also each become the strongest villains in the world. It should be over here, but why is there a follow-up and what went wrong? What's going on with the system? Don't pretend to be dead and explain it to me. Shen Shuqiu asked the system. But after waiting for a long time, the system did not give Shen Shuqiu an answer. Shen Shuqiu suddenly felt a little tired. Zhang Qiancho could catch up with him. The villain heroines from the 8 different worlds may also come after them in the future, and their strengths are quite different from each other. Shen Shuqiu really just wants to live an ordinary and peaceful life, but it is often not what he wants. Each of these heroines is an emotionally unstable time bomb. Only Shen Shuqiu knew that they were all extremely twisted perverts in their hearts. One Zhang Qiancho was enough to give him a headache, and there were 8 more. Shen Shuqiu couldn't even imagine what would happen if all 9 of them got together. It will explode. Every bit of memory he had with Zhang Qiancho seemed to turn into countless pieces of glass, slowly forming a mirror in his mind. The world in the mirror is the first life. After picking up Zhang Qiancho from Dashui's thatched house, Shen Shuqiu also learned about the process and outcome of the mission from the system. In the process of adopting Zhang Qiancho, what you need to do is to care for her in every possible way, so that she can always feel how important she is in your heart. Give her a feeling that she can't live without you, and then create misunderstandings or deceive her to slowly fall from the cloud of happiness into the abyss. The factors that can be used are all based on driving the heroine to the edge of darkness and madness, and finally using her own death to further stimulate the heroine, making her completely become a demon. It was the first time Shen Shuqiu saw this. He just felt that this was too cruel for the heroines. First bring her the ultimate warmth, and then let her experience the fall from it, which is the destruction of human nature. But the answer the system gave Shen Shuqiu was that even if Shen Shuqiu hadn't appeared, these heroines would eventually become the strongest villains in the world. And that growth process may even be worse than what Shen Shuqiu interfered with, because the heroine has a cold heart from the beginning and cannot realize that anyone is treating her well. Shen Shuqiu didn't think so, but he could only obey and complete the tasks given by the system. I don't know your name yet. Shen Shuqiu looked at the little Zhang Qiancho with a smile. Whoa, called Zhang Qian. Chu, Xiao Zhang Qiancho said nervously with evasive eyes. From time to time, she would peek at the gentleman in front of her. During the days when Zhang Qiancho was a beggar, she had always been frightened. Not having enough to eat was a common occurrence. She couldn't grab the older children, so she had to pick up the ones they didn't want. And no one dared to approach her because of the rumors about her. People often came to beat her, and Zhang Qiancho hid around like a street rat hiding in the sewer. She was still so young, and she didn't understand why everyone hated her so much and why they didn't want her. The heavy snow came suddenly, and Xiao Zhang Qiancho huddled in the corner alone. In her heart, dying like this might be the relief for her lonely soul. Maybe after some sleep, I can see my parents. The moment Zhang Qiancho woke up from the cold, she saw a fair-skinned man standing in front of her. Zhang Qiancho was instinctively afraid after hiding for a year. Zhang Qiancho thought this was another person who wanted to hit her, but then the man said something that could only exist in illusory dreams, making her unable to tell whether it was reality or a dream. Zhang Qiancho secretly looked at the good-looking man in front of her, and she gradually believed that those words were not a dream. Seeing Zhang Qiancho's cautious look, Shen Shuqiu felt a little distressed and said, "My name is Shen Shuqiu. Now we have truly gotten to know each other. Zhang Qiancho is lucky to have known you for the rest of my life." Shen Shuqiu stretched out a big hand. Xiao Zhang Qiancho didn't understand what it meant to be lucky in 3 lives, nor did he understand the meaning of extending his hand. The next moment, a big hand tightly grasped her cold purple little hand. Zhang Qiancho had never felt the temperature of the palm of her hand at this moment, and what it felt like to be held. You can take a shower by yourself, right? Shen Shucho said. Taking Zhang Qianzhou back to his house in the town, he boiled a basin of hot water. I can, with, Xiao Zhang Qianzhou said slightly coquettishly. While Zhang Qianzhou was taking a bath, Shen Shucho went to the cloth shop and bought her some nice clothes. When Zhang Qianzhou came back, she got dressed and picked her up and took her to the side room. Zhang Qianzhou stared at the man who hugged her, and felt the warmth in the man's arms. Zhang Qianzhou's face turned red. You will live here from now on. Arriving in the room, Shen Shucho made the bed and said to Zhang Qianzhou. Zhang Qianzhou looked at the brand new bed and bedding and knelt down towards Shen Shucho. Thank you, sir, I don't need a room like this. I can just give you a woodshed to sleep in. Shen Shucho helped Zhang Qianzhou up pitifully and said with heartache, there is no reason to live in a woodshed. From now on, you can live here with peace of mind, and you don't need to call yourself a slave, because you are not my slave, I will adopt you. It's not to get a slave, and there's no need to call me master, I'm not that old. Zhang Qianzhou blinked and looked at Shen Shucho. In her little heart, she felt that Shen Shucho adopted her just to train a maiden slave. She didn't need to spend money to buy it, as long as she had a place to live and didn't have to compete with dogs for food. And sleeping in a woodshed is better than sleeping in a drafty thatched house with still damp ground. But now Shen Shucho told her that she was not a slave and she did not need to sleep in the woodshed. Zhang Qianzhou's long eyelashes trembled slightly, and there were some questions in her little head, but she could only think of so much. Shen Shucho smiled and said, from now on, just call me husband, and I will call you Qianzhou. I will support you from now on. Hearing the words, I support you, again, Zhang Qianzhou's bright eyes filled with mist. Zhang Qianzhou raised his little head and summoned up the courage to say, but why are you so kind to me, sir? You give me food and shelter. Others say I am an ominous and cursed daughter. Aren't you afraid, sir? Others shunned her, but her husband adopted her without hesitation. Shen Shucho held her in his arms distressedly and said, Qianzhou, remember, you have never been the so-called cursed daughter. You don't have to be afraid of anything here. Sir, I will protect you. This is yours. Home is the home of me and Qianzhou. Home. Zhang Qianzhou listened to these words that had never made her calm before, and her eyelashes were trembling and her big tears could no longer hold back from sliding down little by little. His voice became choked. Qianzhou is afraid. Others don't want Qianzhou anymore. They kicked Qianzhou out. They all beat Qianzhou. Wu Qianzhou did something wrong. The injustice and injustice in Zhang Qianzhou's heart turned into tears and poured out at this moment. Shen Shucho stretched out his hand to wipe away her tears and said, don't be afraid, Qianzhou. As long as your husband is here, nothing will happen to you. This is your home, and no one will drive you away again. Yeah, Zhang Qianzhou curled up in his arms and snorted softly. Unknowingly, Zhang Qianzhou fell asleep in his arms, still muttering about home. In Zhang Qianzhou's world, there was originally darkness, and his lonely soul was groping in an empty space, not knowing which way ahead, or when he would be able to get out of this cold darkness. Or maybe you will die in the darkness at any time, and your little heart will be covered with a haze. At this desperate moment, a ray of light came in, and the warm light enveloped Zhang Qianzhou, slowly washing away the darkness from her body. The appearance of family deeply bound Zhang Qianzhou. After putting Zhang Qianzhou on the bed and covering him with quilt, Shen Shucho sighed slowly. The place where he is now is a place called Blackstone Town, which is also Zhang Qianzhou's hometown. This is the first stage of the system arrangement. The second stage will only start when Zhang Qianzhou turns 8. Seeing Zhang Qianzhou sleeping soundly, Shen Shucho couldn't bear the thought of what happened to her later. But he can't change it. The next day, Zhang Qianzhou curled up in the warm quilt like a kitten. Ying, a comfortable sound came out of his mouth. After a while, Zhang Qianzhou's sleepy eyes slowly opened. He quickly stuck his little head out, looked at the unfamiliar room, and quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, none of this was a dream. Zhang Qianzhou was really afraid that yesterday's scene was just a trace of his fantasy in front of the cold wind and snow. Zhang Qianzhou didn't know when he had never had such a peaceful sleep. He didn't have to worry about being woken up by the cold or being chased away by others. All this is really like an illusory dream, but Zhang Qianzhou knows that this is not a dream. Looking through the window, the wind and snow had stopped at some point, and the rising sun hung high in the sky. "Ah, sir, will you think I'm a lazy cat?" Zhang Qianqiu couldn't care less about the warmth in the bed, so she quickly put on her clothes and rushed out the door. Shen Shuqiu was adding firewood under the shed in the courtyard. When he heard the movement behind him, he knew that the little girl was awake. "Qianqiu is awake. How did you sleep last night?" Shen Shuqiu asked with a smile. "To tell you, sir, Qianqiu slept very well last night." Zhang Qianqiu's face was still a little embarrassed. "Qianqiu must be hungry. The food will be ready later." Shen Shuqiu blew on the fire in the stove. Zhang Qianqiu trotted over. "Let Qianqiu handle the cooking, sir. Just sit aside." Shen Shuqiu stopped her and said, "Just don't do the cooking yourself." Zhang Qianqiu immediately scolded himself with a drooped face. "Sir, do you think Qianqiu is useless?" Looking at Shen Shuqiu, who was busy, Zhang Qianqiu felt that he couldn't help much, and his husband wouldn't let him do it. Shen Shuqiu was slightly startled. He could see what Zhang Qianqiu was thinking. Zhang Qianqiu was worried that he would think she was useless and then abandon her. Shen Shuqiu stretched out his hand and kneaded Zhang Qianqiu's head and said with a smile, "Why would you think Qianqiu is useless, sir? Our Qianqiu is so cute. You are still young and you will know many things when you grow up." Zhang Qianqiu's face turned pretty red. Although she didn't understand what her husband meant by being cute, he seemed to be praising her. When her husband praises her, she will feel very happy in her heart. "Then Qianqiu, come and help deliver the firewood." "Hey, okay sir." Zhang Qianqiu became active instantly. With the cooperation of the two, they quickly had hot pasta. Shen Shuqiu ate very little, leaving more for Zhang Qianqiu. Long-term malnutrition, coupled with frostbite caused by wind and snow, requires more supplements. After a long meal, Shen Shuqiu suggested taking Zhang Qianqiu to the street and buy her 2 pieces of clothing to wear in rotation. Zhang Qianqiu's originally content face suddenly became a little resistant when he heard that he was going to the street. The previous incident still came to mind, and everyone on the street looked disgusted when they saw her. Even if she doesn't receive alms, some people who don't like her will come up and kick her. Now that he is adopted by Shen Shuqiu, he has a place to eat and sleep, but Zhang Qianqiu still doesn't dare to face it. She was afraid that because of her, these people would do something to her husband. It doesn't matter if he beats her. Zhang Qianqiu thinks that his life is worthless, but if his husband is beaten because of her, Zhang Qianqiu cannot forgive him. Zhang Qianqiu said immediately, "Sir, Qianqiu won't go. Qianqiu has enough clothes." Shen Shuqiu looked at the resisting little face and sighed slightly in his heart. He knelt down and taught patiently, "Qianqiu, do you want to stay in the room all your life and never go out to see it? Don't worry, no one will know how to do it with Mr. No one dares to do anything to you." Zhang Qianqiu lowered his face and whispered, "Qianqiu is afraid of what they will do to you because of me. It's okay for them to hit Qianqiu. Qianqiu is not afraid of being hit." Shen Shuqiu fell silent for a moment. This little girl was actually worried that she would be implicated. "I'm not afraid of you for 1,000 years, sir, so why be afraid? Whoever dares to come, sir, has a sword. At worst, I'll kill him. Let's go. Today, sir, I'll teach you a lesson. Face your fear bravely." Shen Shuqiu took Zhang Qianqiu's little hand and walked out the door. The heavy snow on the streets is gradually melting in the sunshine, and more people are traveling. Shen Shuqiu was actually assigned here by the system a year ago, but the mission officially started a year later yesterday. During this period, he also secretly visited the heroine of this world. Seeing Zhang Qianqiu lying on the ground in disgrace, grabbing, Shen Shuqiu almost couldn't help but walk past the food remnants. But every time, he was forcibly stopped by the system. Now this little Zhang Qianqiu no longer has to live that kind of life. But when he thought about the final outcome that Zhang Qianqiu would face, Shen Shuqiu could only sigh helplessly. Therefore, during this period, he must sincerely dedicate his warmth to Zhang Qianqiu, instead of being numb like a robot just to complete the task. Many people greeted Shen Shuqiu along the way. "When I came here a year ago, the first thing I did was buy the largest house in the town. At the same time, I also spent a lot of money." In the eyes of others, Shen Shuqiu was a wealthy person. Who is the little girl next to Shen Dahu? Why does she look so familiar? Don't say it, really don't say it. It seems a bit like that little beggar. Which beggar? Of course it's the little girl from the Zhang family who killed half the village. Several people passing by looked at the two of them with strange eyes. Hearing such words, Zhang Qianqiu lowered his head. The next moment, a warm hand rubbed her little head, and she raised her eyes to meet Shen Shuchou's encouraging gaze. Zhang Qianqiu's heart trembled, and she pursed her lips and raised her head firmly. Soon the two came to Bafang. Shen Dahu is here to pick out clothes again. The shopkeeper immediately put on a smile and ran over. Shopkeeper Wang, please pick some warm clothes for her. Shen Shuchou said with a smile. Okay. Shopkeeper Wang looked at the little girl Shen Shuchou was holding. At first glance, I found something familiar. After a while, I immediately remembered who this little girl was. Isn't she the daughter of the ominous Zhang family? Shopkeeper Wang was still wondering yesterday why Mr. Shen would buy children's clothes. Now it seems that he bought it for this ominous girl, this little girl that everyone avoids. Why did Shen Dahu do this? Shopkeeper Wang immediately said. Shen Dahu, I don't know if I can take a step to speak. At the same time, he kept giving gestures with his eyes. After all, Shen Dahu has only been here for a year. He is usually a big customer of the small cloth shop and wants to give him some reminders. Zhang Qianqiu on the side suddenly became nervous, his eyes lowered, and he did not dare to look at Shen Shuchou. Shen Shuchou felt the change in the little figure next to him, and squeezed his small hand with his big hand to reassure her. If that's what Shopkeeper Wang said, there is no need to say it. Shopkeeper Wang looked at Shen Shuchou and then at the nervous Zhang Qianqiu, and swallowed the words on his lips immediately. Hey, I just want to say that I have got good quality fabrics in the store, which are perfect for making clothes to keep warm. Shopkeeper Wang changed his words and said with a smile. Since Shen Dahu knew and didn't care about Shopkeeper Wang, there was no need to continue talking. They were all customers and they still had to be friendly to make money. Shopkeeper Wang, don't you just get rid of the bad guys in your store? It's really unlucky. At this moment, a disgusted voice came from the side. The smile on Shen Shuchou's face faded, and he raised his eyes to see that the speaker was a woman from a Taoist family. Shopkeeper Wang's face froze and he didn't know how to reply. You're such a bad guy, you deserve to die. Why do you have the nerve to live? It's really unlucky. The woman looked at Zhang Qianqiu with disgust. Okay, just say a few words. The man next to the woman quickly grabbed his mother-in-law. He clearly saw Shen Dahu's expression change. They couldn't afford to offend such a rich man. Why can't I even say a few words? This kind of thing that kills my parents should be drowned. The woman was still chattering. Murderous intent flashed in Shen Shuchou's eyes, and he turned around and walked towards the woman. Zhang Qianqiu hid behind him, quickly held it with his little hand, shook his head and whispered, Sir, don't do it for me. Shen Shuchou knelt down and touched his head and said, Mr. Qianqiu said he would protect you. If someone bullies you, don't be afraid to fight back. After saying that, Shen Shuchou came to the woman and said in a cold voice, I apologize for what you just said. The woman was frightened by the cold aura on Shen Shuchou's body, but she felt a little embarrassed and said harshly, Why should I apologize? Why did I say something wrong? I'm sorry, Shen Dahu. My mother-in-law is just a quick talker. Don't be as knowledgeable as her. The man on the side whispered quickly. The man's apology instantly made the woman even more angry. What are you apologizing for? I didn't say anything wrong. This is just a broomstick. Snapped. Shen Shuchou didn't talk nonsense and slapped him directly. The woman's body was instantly slapped by the powerful palm, causing half of her face to become red and swollen. I'm beating someone. It's amazing how rich you are. I'm beating someone because of this bad guy. The woman lay on the ground and rolled around. This. The man was at a loss. You coward, I've been beaten by others, and you still don't beat him. The woman wiped her tears and said. Seeing his mother-in-law acting crazy, the man gritted his teeth and took a step forward. The next moment, he was frightened to the spot by a flash of cold light. Shen Shuchou took out a short sword from under his clothes. The icy cold light instantly stopped the crazy woman. Shen Shuchou's eyes were emotionless and he said coldly, I'll say it again, I apologize. The woman swallowed. She could feel that Shen Shuchou in front of her really dared to kill someone. In fear, the woman fanned her mouth and apologized quickly. I'm sorry, I have a bad mouth. I shouldn't have spoken. Get lost. Shen Shucho put away his sword without looking at the two of them. The man immediately helped the woman up and rushed out of the door. Shopkeeper Wang, let's make clothes. After dealing with the woman, Shen Shucho smiled again. Hey, I'm going now. Shopkeeper Wang came to his senses and quickly dealt with it. Shen Shucho, who was reflected in the eyes of Xiao Zhang Qianzhou behind him, was deeply engraved in his heart at this moment. This was the first time that someone was willing to stand up for her. Unknowingly, it has been more than a month since Zhang Qianzhou was adopted. Since he took Zhang Qianzhou out last time, everyone in the town also knew that Shen Shucho had adopted this ominous daughter. During this period, many people came to persuade Shen Shucho and suggested throwing Zhang Qianzhou out, and some even directly suggested beating Zhang Qianzhou to death. All of these were rejected by Shen Shucho one by one. After many times, no one came to persuade him, but they always pointed fingers behind his back. During this period of time, Shen Shucho served Zhang Qianzhou with a lot of money. From being thin and dirty at the beginning, she has become baby fat now, with a little rouge color on her little face, which is really cute. Shen Shucho spends his days either lying on a rocking chair reading a book or basking in the sun. He doesn't need to make money because the system can't spend all the money given to him. Life was pretty leisurely, except for Xiao Zhang Qianzhou, who occasionally showed her naughty side and begged him to teach her martial arts. Shen Shucho refused with a smile. His body system did not provide any cultivation. Name: Shen Shucho. Cultivation level: 1st grade. World: The First Life, Tianwu Junshi. Heroine: Zhang Qianzhou. Progress: Phase 1. Shen Shucho is now at best a first-class master in martial arts and has no means of cultivating immortality. Zhang Qianzhou really started practicing in the second stage of her progress, which was when she moved away from here when she was 8 years old. Zhang Qianzhou is now 5 years old, which means there are still 3 years of stable life. In the past 3 years, Shen Shucho would not let Zhang Qianzhou stay at home and idle. After her health was restored, it was time to learn how to read. There happened to be a school in the town. Over at the school, Shen Shucho had already taken care of things. At first, he was unwilling to accept Zhang Qianzhou, an ominous daughter. But Shen Shucho gave him too much. Sir, I don't want to learn. Zhang Qianzhou said reluctantly with a hunched body. Shen Shucho refused sternly. No, how can a child be illiterate? But sir, it's better to teach me. Qianzhou doesn't want to go to school. Zhang Qianzhou whispered. It's not that she doesn't want to learn calligraphy, it's just that Zhang Qianzhou hopes her husband will teach her more. Shen Shucho lightly tapped Zhang Qianzhou's little head and said with a smile, Sir, there is no teacher who can teach you well. As you said, don't worry, I will be there for everything. Zhang Qianzhou was depressed and nodded reluctantly. She couldn't let her husband down. In the days that followed, Zhang Qianzhou went to school on time every day. Every time when she left, Shen Shucho would give Zhang Qianzhou some broken silver and leave it for her to buy pastries. Zhang Qianzhou peeked his head outside the door that day and saw Shuchao's submerged figure in the yard. He tiptoed towards the side room cautiously. Just halfway through, Shen Shucho came out of the room and faced Zhang Qianzhou's sneaking appearance. Zhang Qianzhou was stunned, his eyes dodged and Nuo shouted, Sir, I'll go back to the room to do my homework first. After speaking, he quickly ran past Shen Shucho. Stop! Shen Shucho shouted from behind. Zhang Qianzhou's small body suddenly froze in place. Shen Shucho felt a little strange when he saw Zhang Qianzhou's guilty look. In the past, this little guy always clung to him as soon as he came home, so why was something abnormal today? He immediately called Zhang Qianzhou to him, but Zhang Qianzhou looked reluctant. This made Shen Shucho realize that something must have happened, and his face darkened. Zhang Qianzhou kept watching secretly, and when she saw her husband's expression change, he immediately walked over honestly. Shen Shucho pulled Zhang Qianzhou in front of him and inspected his body carefully. Zhang Qianzhou pursed her lips without saying a word and avoided her hands intentionally or unintentionally. This small gesture could not be hidden from Shen Shucho's eyes. He immediately grabbed the little hand behind his back and saw that there was indeed blood on the sleeve. What's going on? Shen Shucho asked with a deep look in his eyes. Zhang Qianzhou's little eyes immediately turned red when he was discovered, and his voice became choked as he said, I'm sorry, sir. Seeing the little guy like this, Shen Shucho suddenly softened his heart and asked comfortingly, what happened, tell me bit by bit. Feeling Shen Shucho's comfort, Zhang Qianzhou said with red eyes, they scolded you, sir. I didn't let them scold you. If they scolded me, I beat them. So this blood is not yours? Shen Shucho asked after hearing this. Zhang Qianzhou's face was startled. Shouldn't the gentleman blame her for hitting someone? Why would you ask this? Zhang Qianzhou replied honestly, the blood is not mine. Shen Shucho is gloomy. His face relaxed and he said, as long as the blood is not yours. Sir, don't you blame me for causing trouble. Zhang Qianzhou looked up at her tear-stained face. Shen Shucho wiped away her tears and said with a smile, Sir, how can you blame you for causing trouble? It's not your fault. You didn't make any mistakes. Beating people is just a means of production. As long as you are not injured, sir, that's fine. Shen Shucho didn't know what kind of rumors this little girl went through in school. Zhang Qianzhou usually tolerated them. This time she chose to hit someone because she was scolded. Although Shen Shucho felt sorry for the rumors Zhang Qianzhou received in school, this was a courage she had to face. Ooh, Zhang Qianzhou heard that her husband did not blame her again, and she threw herself into her arms and couldn't stop her tears from flowing down. Silly girl, you didn't do anything wrong. Don't cry. Shen Shucho comforted her softly, patting her back. Dong dong dong. It just so happened that there was a knocking sound outside the door. Shen Shucho knew that the beaten parent came to his door. He immediately stood up and went to open the door, with Zhang Qianzhou following behind. As the door opened, there were 3 men standing outside holding little boys in their hands. The 3 little boys were covering their heads wrapped in white cloth, with blood reflected on them. Shen Shucho was slightly shocked. How could Zhang Qianzhou do this, beat 3 little boys of the same age to a bloody head by one person? The 3 little boys also saw Zhang Qianzhou following Shen Shucho, with a hint of fear in their eyes. Shen Dahu, what are you going to do about this? Look at the idiot you raised and beat my son like this. A rough man with a beard said angrily, holding a butcher's knife stained with blood. Shen Shucho knew this person as Li Dafu, a pig butcher on the east street of the town. He had some evil aura about him, and ordinary people might have been really frightened. Yes, see what you do. We must be given an explanation. The other 2 people also spoke one after another. The 2 men were not as powerful as Li Dafu, and he was obviously the leader. Shen Shucho said calmly, I admit that my student hit someone. I will pay for the medical expenses and I will add an extra 5 taels of silver to compensate you. That's it. Don't block in front of my door. Shen Shucho simply understood the issue of compensation and explained it directly. As for right and wrong, he didn't want to make too big a fuss. After hearing this generous compensation, the faces of the 2 people behind Li Dafu were obviously moved. 5 taels of silver is a big expense. In some shops, you can only get 1,000 copper coins a month, which adds up to only 1 tael of silver. This was already equivalent to 5 months of their wages. The 2 of them did not expect that Shen Shucho would be so generous, but they still looked at Li Dafu hesitantly. After all, they came with him. The 2 also knew what happened. They were just ordinary farmers and did not dare to come alone. Then they approached Li Dafu and planned to blackmail Shen Shucho severely. However, they did not expect that the process seemed to go smoothly, and the money was higher than expected. The amount to be blackmailed is huge. No, 5 taels of silver is too little. At least 10 taels of silver, and then you ask me to slap this little fool in the face. You don't see how precious my son is. How can this fool you raise be comparable? Li Dafu said with fierce eyes. Zhang Qianzhou's body trembled slightly, feeling the movement coming from the palm of his hand, and he felt a little relieved. Shen Shucho's face remained calm and he said calmly, Li Dafu, don't be so shameless. There was a hint of coldness in his calm tone. A chill surged through Li Dafu's body, like a mouse's instinctive fear when it sees a cat. Many people also appeared on both sides of the street, looking here. After roughly understanding the situation, everyone looked at each other coldly, and many people even spoke for Li Dafu. I advised him last time that it would be best to kill this ominous girl, but he didn't listen to me. Bah, what a bad luck. This kind of fool who killed his parents should be put in a pig cage. All kinds of unpleasant words were stabbed like a knife, making Zhang Qianzhou's body tremble uncontrollably. Usually these neighbors are very harmonious towards Shen Shuqiu, but since they adopted Zhang Qianzhou, these people's attitude towards Shen Shuqiu has changed. There were all kinds of unpleasant gossip behind my back, and I had to take a detour even to the door, for fear of getting some bad luck. Shen Shuqiu didn't care about any of this. All he cared about was Zhang Qianzhou. When Li Dafu saw someone speaking for him, and he also had a knife in his hand, he immediately became more confident. What did I say wrong? Aren't they all the harmful fools raised by you, Mr. Shen? Now this idiot is precious to me. My son was beaten, and I must give an explanation, otherwise this matter will never end. Li Dafu said coldly, Shen Dahu, let's get rid of this harmful person. It's a good life without you, with her. If you ask me, just kill her. She is a bad thing if she is alive. The others also spoke one after another. Shen Shuqiu didn't choose either one. He looked at Li Dafu coldly and said, I've already told you about the compensation. If you don't want it, leave here. His patience with Li Dafu was gradually wearing thin. Unexpectedly, Li Dafu still refused to give up. I must compensate me 10 taels of silver, plus this little fool. After saying that, Li Dafu's eyes were fierce and he took advantage of the crowd and directly reached out to grab Zhang Qianzhou on the side. Court death. This act of seeking death completely wore away Shen Shuqiu's patience. A big hand intercepted Li Dafu and gave him a hard squeeze in his eyes. Ah, my hand is broken. Li Dafu covered his injured hand and roared, and then became even more angry and said, I will chop you to death. The other one held a butcher's knife stained with blood and came straight to Shen Shuqiu's door. Shen Shuqiu's face was indifferent. He dodged the knife very quickly, and kicked Li Dafu's fat body with his feet. Boom! Li Dafu, who weighed nearly 200 kilograms, was kicked several meters away by this powerful and heavy kick. He hit the wall hard, and then he held his stomach and vomited. The butcher's knife fell into Shen Shuqiu's hand, and he held a knife between his fingers and threw it towards Li Dafu. There was a cracking sound in the air, and the butcher's knife was stuck on the wall, only a few centimeters away from Li Dafu. Li Dafu was so frightened that he fainted on the spot, and the rest of the people watching were also shocked by the scene that happened in the lightning room. They did not expect that Li Dafu would dare to take action, and they did not expect that Shen Shuqiu's thin body could burst out with such a powerful force. Being able to kick Li Dafu straight away was a bit shocking to them. Then Shen Shuqiu looked at the remaining 2 people following Li Dafu with cold eyes. The 2 of them were stunned by the scene just now. Seeing Shen Shuqiu look at them, he felt cold in his heart and said quickly, I don't want anything anymore, I'm going to get out now. After saying that, he ran directly to the other side of the street, not daring to mention compensation again. No one told them that Shen Dahu knew martial arts, otherwise how could he kick Li Dafu, who weighed nearly 200 kilograms, away with one kick, let alone their small bodies. A kick would kill someone. At the same time, I felt a little regretful. If I had known earlier, I would have just taken the 5 taels of silver and let it go. Now they no longer have the courage. After dealing with the 3 of them, Shen Shuqiu took advantage of the crowd around and said coldly, Zhang Qianzhou is my student. I don't want to hear anything about her again in the future, and I don't want to see anyone making trouble for her again. This is a warning to everyone. If you want to cause trouble for Zhang Qianzhou, you should first look at Li Dafu. After saying that, regardless of the ugly faces of everyone, he led Zhang Qianzhou into the courtyard. Then he carefully checked that there were no injuries on Zhang Qianzhou's body before relaxing. During the process, Zhang Qianzhou kept his mouth pursed and said nothing. Sensing that she was in a low mood, Shen Shuqiu could only comfort her, Qianzhou is fine. You don't need to worry about me. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm here for everything. Sir, I don't want to go to school these days. Zhang Qianzhou raised his red eyes and whispered. Okay. Shen Shuqiu rubbed his head and replied softly. Answer. Time has passed, and Shen Shuqiu's 4 years in Blackstone Town have passed by in a blink of an eye. The first phase of the system has also come to an end, and Zhang Qianzhou's second phase is about to begin. Zhang Qianqiu is also 8 years old. He has grown from a little boy to 1.4 meters tall, and his whole body has become more and more delicate, like an unripe green apple, revealing his innocence. As Zhang Qianqiu grew up, his ability to get into trouble also increased a lot. He often brought some unnecessary trouble to Shen Shuqiu, but he was resolved one by one. Zhang Qianqiu almost beat up all her peers in the school, and there was no one who was not afraid of her. He has also vaguely developed into the king of children in the town. Although he has no really good friends around him in the past few years, Zhang Qianqiu doesn't care much. In Zhang Qianqiu's heart, nothing can compare with Mr. Shen Shuqiu in the whole world. Zhang Qianqiu is no longer as sad about the rumors about her as before. But when walking on the road, when the townspeople saw her, it was like seeing the plague, and they all took detours. Zhang Qianqiu didn't care about this. She just wanted to have her husband accompany her every day and be satisfied if he talked to her. But if someone says that Shen Shuqiu is not good at all, Zhang Qianqiu is like an angry little lion waving its claws to show her fierce side. "Sir, I'm back." 8-year-old Zhang Qianqiu opened the door, as happy as a sparrow. Shen Shuqiu was still lying on the rocking chair as before, either savoring the book in his hand or enjoying the sunshine. It is now spring and summer, and the sun is not so dazzling. "Yeah," Shen Shuqiu covered his face and responded softly. The next moment, a small hand took away the book covering the sun. Zhang Qianqiu showed his little tiger teeth that were still growing and said, "Sir, don't lie in the yard all the time. You should go out for a walk more often." Shen Shuqiu smiled helplessly and said, "When the little girl grows up, she will take care of you." Zhang Qianqiu had told him many similar words, but Shen Shuqiu was too lazy to move. Anyway, these relatively leisurely days are coming to an end, and every second I can lie down is a second. Snort. Zhang Qianqiu snorted. The next moment, he quickly tapped Shen Shuqiu on the face. Feeling the coolness and moist feeling on his face, Shen Shuqiu raised his eyes in shock. Facing Zhang Qianqiu's sly smile, Shen Shuqiu jumped away without waiting for anything to say. Shen Shuqiu wiped the saliva on his face and smiled helplessly. He didn't think much about it. Zhang Qianqiu is only 8 years old. What bad intentions could an 8-year-old girl have? The next day, dawn has just broken in the sky, and there are still a few sparse stars in the light blue sky. Shen Shuqiu didn't have the habit of getting up late, so he put on his clothes and woke up early. At this time, the fire had been started to cook, and Zhang Qianqiu woke up just in time to have a hot bite. This has been the case for the past few years. Shen Shuqiu has also become accustomed to the life of being both a father and a mother. He has single-handedly raised Zhang Qianqiu to be fair, tender and dewy. Boom, boom, boom. When Shen Shuqiu was passing firewood into the stove, there was a rapid knock on the door. Shen Shuqiu was slightly confused as to who knocked on the door so early. Shen Shuqiu put down the firewood and opened the door, only to see a bunch of people standing outside. The leader was an old man, who was the mayor of Blackstone Town, also named Zhang Chashan. Zhang Chashan was followed by a group of townspeople. The strange thing was that these people had tools in their hands. Hoes, rakes, or kitchen knives and other iron tools. It seems that the visitor is ill-intentioned. Shen Shuqiu narrowed his eyes and said, "What does Mayor Zhang mean?" Zhang Chashan glanced at Shen Shuqiu as if hesitating, and then said, "Has Shen Dahu considered changing his residence?" Upon hearing this, Shen Shuqiu immediately understood the purpose of this group. This was to drive him away. Shen Shuqiu also knew that the first phase of the system mission was over and would leave here soon, but he did not expect to leave in this way. Even so, Shen Shuqiu still said, "What does Mayor Zhang mean by this? Why should Shen change his house if he is living well?" "Old man Shen Dahu, let me tell you the truth. In recent years, the scenery in the town has not been good at all, and the land has not been in good condition. We have been living a miserable life. We really have no choice. Now many people have died. I also know that Shen Dahu has helped us a lot in the past few years, but it is not an option to continue like this. I hope Shen Dahu can understand us, which is equivalent to saving a life than building a 7-level pagoda." Quote. Zhang Chashan sighed. In the past few years, he has seen the scenery in Blackstone Town, and some natural disasters have occurred. Either it rained continuously for 10 days and a half, and the seedlings in the fields were drowned, or it didn't rain for 2 months, and the entire Blackstone town was so dry that cracks appeared on the ground. After finally waiting for the seedlings in the fields to get better, a large insect infestation appeared again, eating up the fields. Moreover, many people have died in the past few years, and Blackstone town is missing at least 1/3. Shen Shucho has been using money to help villagers who lack financial resources from farming. In 3 years, hundreds of taels of silver were used. Although Zhang Chashan did not mention Zhang Qianzhou in his words, she was mentioned in every sentence. These townspeople blamed Zhang Qianzhou for all the disasters here. The villagers couldn't bear it anymore, so they unanimously decided to drive away Shen Shucho and the others, even though Shen Shucho had greatly helped them. There seemed to be anger burning crazily in Shen Shucho's heart, so Zhang Qianzhou had to be blamed for all of this. Sometimes, Shen Shucho would also wonder whether it was God who forbid Zhang Qianzhou, or it was the system's arrangement, or whether it was all empty rumors. Even sometimes, Shen Shucho didn't want to worry about this bullshit task because he didn't want Zhang Qianzhou to suffer so much in the future. But the warning given to him by the system is that if he does not complete the task well, he will never be able to go back and will sink forever. So Shen Shucho had no way to change what was going to happen, and he really couldn't stop it. Seeing the determined eyes of the townspeople in front of him and the farm tools in their hands, Shen Shucho smiled. It seems that even if he doesn't agree, he will violently drive them away. Zhang Chashan looked at Shen Shucho nervously and couldn't help but tighten his grip on the rusty sickle in his hand. "Gentlemen," a Nuo's voice sounded from behind. Zhang Qianzhou looked at the townspeople at the door with red eyes. She had woken up long ago, but she was reluctant to get up because she was greedy for the warmth of the bed. The movement at the door disturbed her, so she put on her clothes and tiptoed to eavesdrop. Zhang Qianzhou is not stupid, so how could she not know what Zhang Chashan said? Chiaki. Shen Shucho didn't expect that Zhang Qianzhou was right behind him, but he didn't notice it. "What did I do wrong? You want to drive me and my husband away. Why are you doing this to us?" Zhang Qianzhou shouted angrily at the people outside the door with red eyes. This was the first time she felt extreme anger towards these people. Zhang Qianzhou saw deep disgust in the eyes of these people. "So I asked Shen Dahu to move." Zhang Chashan's turbid eyes kept looking at Shen Shu. "Hatred. Shen Dahu, let's move. Take this evil star and stay away from us. Just let us go." The rest of the people were all talking nonsense. "Sir, we won't move, why are you doing this to us?" Zhang Qianzhou grabbed the corner of Shen Shucho's clothes and said angrily. Shen Shucho could feel the unwillingness in the little girl's heart, but at the moment he could only follow the flow and follow the system's instructions. "Mayor Zhang, please allow us to have a warm meal before we go on the road." Shen Shucho suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "I hope Shen Dahu will keep his word." Zhang Chashan still didn't back down, and just led a group of people to sit on the floor outside the door. Seeing the ugly faces of these people, Shen Shucho, even though he had a good temper, his voice turned completely cold at this moment. Shen doesn't like to be disturbed while dining. Anyone who disturbs will die. At worst, just kill a few people before leaving. How much can these people do to him? Zhang Chashan broke into a cold sweat when he heard Shen Shucho's words as cold as a ghost. Then Shen Shucho closed the door and pulled Zhang Qianzhou away. There was some silence in the air. Neither of them spoke, but they were busy working together in a tacit understanding. After a while, the steaming hot meal was served on the table. Shen Shucho still ate very little, and Zhang Qianzhou seemed to have no appetite and was reluctant to use his chopsticks. "Sir, why don't we leave?" Zhang Qianzhou raised his red eyes, tears falling down his face. Shen Shucho's heart twitched, and he said softly, "The world is so big, there is no place like home. Sir, I will take you somewhere else. It's different, it's different. This is my husband and I's home. It's the home that my husband gave to Qianzhou. Qianzhou doesn't want to lose her home, nor does she want to lose her husband." Zhang Qianzhou raised his face full of tears. She didn't understand why these people always hated her and hated her so much. Beating her, scolding her, having no friends of the same age, Zhang Qianzhou didn't care about all this. Now these are actually trying to drive them away, drive away Zhang Qianzhou's family. She still remembered the promise her husband had made to her that this was her home and the real home for her and her husband. But now this group of people will be deprived of even their homes. While Zhang Qianzhou hated them, he also hated himself extremely. It was he who had caused his husband to be harmed. It was me who caused my husband to take me away. Looking at the group of people through the crack in the door, an evil idea grew in Zhang Qianzhou's heart and magnified infinitely. You all say that I am an ominous girl, you all say that I am a cursed girl. Then I now curse you to not have a good death and not to be reincarnated forever. It would be great if you all died and my husband and I were the only ones living together. Let's all die. They all die, and only my husband and I are left to depend on each other. I can give birth to a husband and give birth to many little ones. It would be great if the world were like this. A sickly smile appeared on Zhang Qianzhou's face unconsciously. Boom! There was a thunder in the sky. Thunder as thick as a bucket pierced the sky, illuminating the gray of dawn. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.